Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, welcome to A Couple of Flicks. I'm Tristan,
I'm Nick.
And I'm Zach.
and life has been very, very busy, obviously. But now that it's summer, I figure it's okay to kind of every so often get together and chat. So, how have you how have you fellas been?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we don't really do seasons exactly. We just kind of, jump in whenever we're not busy. But
Yeah, we
I'm
joked
okay
about
with
it
that.
because we had multiple month breaks, and it's like season 4 or 5 or something like that by now.
Yeah.
If we called it that.
Mm. Yeah. And every so often, like I know, like we kind of reach out and sort of bring up or discuss episode possibilities, but then we're always busy or I'm having health issues or crazy stuff is going on. So but whatever. I mean, it's still nice to kind of talk every so often about films or whatnot. So
Yeah.
I know when David Lynch passed away, my first thought is, oh my God, we got to start talking about his stuff. But
We can still do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be down for that because that it would mean that we'd get a chance to check another Nicolas Cage movie off our list. So, but anyway, we can talk about that later. Anyway, on this episode, we are talking about I guess, trilogy. Although I guess it's going to be an expanded trilogy now.
Technically a trilogy, I think, because Weeks, I think, was retconned out.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good point. But the 28 days, weeks, months, years, well, no, not months, but 28 years. The 28 trilogy is what I'm going to call it right now. So that's what we're going to discuss with this new film that has come out recently, which I think we all got a chance to see in the theaters. So
Yeah.
yeah, I know there was like discussion of a couple of us seeing it more than once, but I didn't end up doing that. So
I didn't either.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just saw it like Thursday, so 2 days ago.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're still trying to process that one, so no need to watch it twice yet. I don't think, but in the meantime, we'll discuss all three of them. But I guess before we get to that, is there anything that you guys saw recently or this year that you want to talk about, or that you play, even video games that you may have played recently? So just to let you guys know, I'm getting back into gaming slowly. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. So
Trying to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I slowly am. I did a little bit of uh, 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 Last of Us Part 2 because I was watching because I wanted to play the game. I kind of actually played it side by side to the second season.
I was kind of doing the same thing.
Like I would play a little bit ahead in the game, and then it would generally end up where like each episode would end up where I was, and then the next week I'd play a couple hours, and like I haven't beaten it. I just basically got to where the season ended too.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I haven't watched the second season yet. I didn't play the second game either. So, but I mean, I've heard about what happens. I mean, people have talked about it. So because a lot of people I know kind of like to rant and rave whenever they bring up The Last of Us, which I'm okay with. I don't mind people venting about it. So,
Yeah, I liked this first season a lot, and it was a really good adaptation of the first game. But the second season, I don't know. It was still okay overall, but the characterization of Ellie was just completely different. and I just wasn't a fan. Like, I know people are hating on Bella Ramsey and stuff, but I don't think it was her fault at all. Like, it was definitely down to the writing. She just, like, in the game, she's a lot more hardened and badass and everything, and this season she was still kind of goofy and childish. So
Yeah.
it had nothing to do with her looks or her acting ability, because she did still pull off some great scenes and stuff, but her overall characterization, I think, from the writing, it was just like not the Ellie of the second game, which she's a total badass in the second game, and this one she's kind of a dumbass.
That's a bummer. I like Bella Ramsey, though, I will admit.
Yeah, she's a great actress. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did actually eventually watch season 1. I kind of told myself that I wasn't going to, just because I played the game, and so I didn't feel the need to really watch the season 1. But I did eventually watch it, and I liked it, actually. It was really cool.
Yeah.
So
it was a great adaptation. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. What about you, Zach?
I'll mention the new Wes Anderson.
Oh yeah,
Saw that.
I didn't even know that was out yet.
Yeah. It's not his best, I'll say that, but it's very dense
yeah.
story-wise.
It sounds like
good.
it.
From the trailers, I thought it was gonna be good, but who knows?
Yeah, it's good, but it's at the bottom of the list for me for sure.
I do want to see Benicio del Toro work with Wes Anderson more, because I think he might have been my favorite part of the was it French Dispatch of the Kansas City Sun or whatever the title was.
That was my least favorite Wes Anderson, but his short was was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the wraparound story of that one more than the actual stories themselves.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Can't we just see this instead of these?
Yeah, because I actually got more emotionally involved in that stuff. So
yeah, he used to stick with one story. Seems like he's got too much going on in these last couple.
Yeah, I started to get that vibe around Isle of Dogs.
I didn't know. Actually, Isle of Dogs might be my least favorite of his.
Yeah, I wrestled with a lot of aspects of that one. I think I like it, but it definitely was not my favorite by far. You know, I didn't like it as much as the Fantastic Mr. Fox for sure.
Yeah, I love Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
That one was really cute. Yeah,
I love dogs. I don't know. I just found boring.
Yeah. The Life Aquatic is the one that I've slowly fallen more and more in love with, like as time goes on. You know, because when I first saw it, it kind of was like, I don't know, a little frustrating for me. You know, just because I didn't like all the twists and stuff. But I don't know. Nowadays, like I look back on it, and I'm actually really moved by that one. So.
Yeah. That and Darjeeling Limited.
That's my favorite. I love Darjeeling Limited. It's my favorite one.
Darjeeling Limited is great. You know, yeah, I love. I really, really love Moonrise. I really love Darjeeling. I really love Grand Budapest. Rushmore and Royal Tenenbaums, I still get a kick out of. I've never quite clicked with Bottle Rocket. So.
Yeah.
And I don't. I think I watched the Henry Sugar ones, and I felt kind of mixed about that one. I think I enjoyed it overall, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, like that.
I didn't see them yet.
Yeah. I saw. I mean, I'd say my favorite thing I've seen so far this year. I'd say my two favorite things I've seen so far this year were the new Alex Garland movie Warfare.
Oh, really?
Which I don't even really like war. When it comes to war movies, I'm kind of particular. They have to kind of be less about the chaos of war and more about sort of the things that go into war, like the process of war. Those are the things I'm more interested in. And That one is about like the Battle of Ramadi in Iraq, which I guess if you read about that battle, then you'll basically know how the movie ends. It wasn't exactly a successful, uh, which of course, I mean, it's war. So, but
I wanted
it
to see that. It looked really cool.
Yeah.
it's incredible actually. It's very grounded and um I don't like to when people describe things as like fly on the wall type of thing, but it really does kind of feel like you're sort of looking at something you shouldn't be looking at, really. And a lot of the film actually, like a good majority of the film is not even really about like battles or anything like that. It's actually kind of more about the people having to deal with their injuries, and so there's a lot of sequences of them rolling around on the ground and covered in blood and piss and in a lot of pain, and it's a lot actually. After a while, then the characters making like a lot of mistakes and not really coordinating very well, and it's actually kind of like the perfect kind of anti-war movie because it sort of just illustrates the horrors of war. Like the experience of it sort of speaks for itself. It's like if you're interested in sort of actually being involved in war, it's actually kind of more like this, where efforts to try to stay coordinated and try to stay in control are pretty much just impossible in a situation that's just completely out of control. And like all the people that they're involved with and in conflict with know this area better than they do. So it's like it's kind of a pointless endeavor, and they don't even know why they're there in the first place. That's sort of the real tragedy of it. All these people die for pretty much no reason, or at least no understandable reason. So it's a pretty sad movie, but it's also really fascinating because it's actually like the person who co-directed it was like basically one of the people who was there, and he's played by the guy who was he's an actor in Reservation Dogs, which a lot of people have told me to watch, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. But
I heard it's really good. I want to see that. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, Warfare, excellent movie, highly recommended. And then the other thing I saw, I actually watched more recently, was that animated movie, Flow, that Lithuanian movie about the cat in the flood, which I guess technically is like it came out last year, but it won Best Animated Picture. So I finally watched it, and it was very, very moving. So it's
isn't
on.
that like all by one guy?
I mean, basically, there's like, as far as like the actual like post-production aspect, there's more to it, but it more or less, like the animation and stuff, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like because now that I'm getting back into video games and stuff, I've been playing not well, okay, it used to, when I was growing up, it was called Out of This World, but now it's called Another World. And I've been playing like the remastered version of that, and I'm still struggling to get through it, but it mostly because of the controls are very complicated. But that was all created by one guy too, and so it sort of almost reminds me of like the tradition of that kind of thing. But I loved
Valley. You guys heard of Stardew? That's one guy that made that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Stardew Valley. That's another game I've been slowly kind of getting more into. My niece was the one who introduced me to that one, and
One I wanted to start.
oh gosh, it's great. It's great. These days I'm kind of more into more chill type of games.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so definitely watch Flow. It's gorgeous. It honestly is. Like I wasn't even quite sure what was happening a lot of the time. But it was like, it not that it was like complicated to follow or anything. It actually wasn't. It's just I was just so captivated by just the kitty. Anyway, I'm not gonna go on about it. Just watch it. All right. So yeah, let's do you guys want to share anything else, or
I'll do a quick Sinners. You
Yeah.
guys see Sinners?
mm-hmm.
Loved it.
It was great.
I love vampire shit, of course, as you know. and that one was a great entry.
Yeah.
Dust Till Dawn esque.
I was gonna say, yeah. I almost
Get
kind
a
of wish
little hint in the beginning, but then like, yeah, it's about people open up speakeasy. Well, I don't know. Was it illegal in that? I don't know what time it took place necessarily, but yeah, a little.
yeah. Well, I
Then
mean,
it just did that flip. Dust Till Dawn does real quick.
yeah. I wish I hadn't seen From Dusk Till Dawn almost because it like if I hadn't seen From Dusk Till Dawn, I feel like I almost would have enjoyed Sinners more, just because like the structure was kind of identical,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I shouldn't say identical. It did have its own differences. But it was fun though. I mean, it was well made. I would watch it again.
Oh yeah, me too.
So.
Yeah. And then just real quick, I watched all the Mission Impossible movies.
I did too.
To lead up into the last one, but then I haven't watched the last one yet.
Yeah.
It went out of theaters before I could.
All right. Well, please, like you guys, share your thoughts on the Mission Impossible movies because I've only watched up to the fourth one and I still don't know.
They're honestly really fucking good.
They get better.
Yeah.
Nice. Good.
Like I think the first one is honestly still the best.
Yeah.
Like it's so good.
The first one's actually, I'd say the first one's like even now the most underrated. Like
people just forget because it's so old, but like when I rewatch, I was like, "Holy shit, this is fucking good."
Yeah.
Then like 2 and 3, not too great, but 4 onwards is pretty fucking all hits.
Yeah, I will share my opinions about the first 4, but I do want to hear your opinions too, Zach.
Yeah, I like them all. I think first one's still my favorite, and then what's the one with Henry Cavill? That's probably my second favorite.
Good. Mine too. Yeah.
Fallout, I think that one is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That fucking bathroom fight scene was
so good.
Yeah.
The newest one, not as great, but still good.
That's what I heard. Yeah, the 7th one wasn't even like I'd do like 1, 4, probably 6, 5, 7, and then 3, 2, and then I haven't ranked the 8th one yet because I haven't seen it, but that would be my general ranking, I think. But they're all still like it's a surprisingly good series. I was like, forgot how good they actually are.
I want to like the second one because it's John Woo.
Yeah, but it feels more John Woo than Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I it's funny because when I saw the first one when I was younger, and I remember thinking it was really dumb just because I hated all the twists. But then as I got older, I rewatched it and I was like, holy crap! Like this movie's like really really good. And I would actually say the first one has like held up the best.
Yeah, when I watched I was young too. When I watched the first one, it blew my mind when like the first, I don't know, a little 30 minutes or so, everyone died basically.
That was cool.
Like, and the elevator death always stuck with me throughout the years. I was like,
oh yeah, that was gnarly.
New fear unlocked.
Yeah, that was messed up. That was pretty twisted. Yeah, it still has some of the best, like some of the most suspenseful scenes in the series, like that laser scene where he's like descending from the ceiling. Was like, oh man,
that's a classic
skin
movie.
Crawling. Yeah,
classic movie scene of all time.
Yeah, and it's directed by Brian De Palma, but surprisingly restrained for Brian De Palma because usually he goes like ballistic with the exploitation and the stylist like camera work and sound design and stuff, but in Mission Impossible he actually lets Tom Cruise act remarkably. And then the second one is hilarious. Like I still laugh like just thinking about that one. And it's been a while since I've only watched that one once, but I remember watching it when I was like 10 years old or 11 years old and laughing my ass off at it. Just, I definitely, I need to rewatch that one just because I remember laughing at Tom Cruise mostly and his hair and him rock climbing and just him doing the poses and stuff and like the wheelie on the bike. I just was like, oh man. And him like walking in slow motion with the pigeons flying behind him or whatever they were. Yeah,
doves, the
so
John
funny.
doves or whatever.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, the doves of peace or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Mission Impossible 3. I don't really remember Mission Impossible 3 that way. I just remember Philip Seymour Hoffman camping it up.
Yeah, he was the best part of it.
Didn't get to camp it up back then.
J.J. Abrams, so there was some dumbass mystery box thing that didn't pay off, of course.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, J.J. Abrams is like really complicated. I don't know. I don't know what happened regarding him, but anyway, I'm not going to get into that. And then Mission Impossible 4. I remember after I finished watching it, I kind of concluded that Tom Cruise may be clinically insane because it's not the one where he climbed like the tallest building in the world or whatever. I'm like, oh man, okay.
Ghost Protocol, that one was good.
It was good, yeah, I liked it.
With someone who Jim Renner, he's in that one, I think, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
a tie-in for one of our movies.
Oh yes, yeah. We can do a little segue there. Yeah. But yeah, I'll watch the other. I guess to conclude though, Mission Impossible. I will watch the rest of them in time, but
surprisingly good series.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I remember watching a few episodes of the series not too long ago with my dad, just for fun. I don't know. We used to watch a lot of old shows together. We kind of have been getting back into that, but
yeah. Oh yeah, it's a baller theme song too. I'll gotta give
mm-hmm. Yep.
Put a cap to the theme song. It's always
no, dude. Whenever I have to go back to work, to go inside to clean something or pick something out or grab something that I forgot, in my head while I'm unlocking the door, the Mission Impossible theme song is always playing in my head while I'm doing that. So yeah. So I guess we should get actually wait, the last thing I should mention real quick, I did watch K-pop Demon Hunters on Netflix. So
yeah, I keep hearing about that one.
Yeah, the music is pretty dope. I like the songs and the animation and everything. It's it's fun. There's some pretty cool demonic imagery in the second half. So there's this part where they have to go to this concert. Well, they don't have to go. Well, they do have to go to save the world, but it has to do with this boy band who starts taking over the world, and the K-pop demon hunters, they know their real plan, and it's cool. It's pretty cool. I like the whole idea of it. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Turning Red and Encanto and Vivo and all those animated movies. It has a lot of the elements of those kinds of things, but with K-pop, so if you're into that, go for it. It's got some good stuff. So
nice.
Yeah. All right. 28 days later. So let's get started here. Now I guess before we start talking about before we start diving into the first movie, I guess what are your guys' overall sort of what's your experience with the first movie? When it first came out? What do you remember when it came out or
Yeah.
Probably didn't see it till a couple of years later on DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the case for me too.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, my older siblings saw it in the theaters and were raving about it, and I think I saw it at a sleepover.
Yeah, I think that was the way I saw it too.
Yeah.
Because I think when it came out, wasn't old enough to go see an R-rated, and then just picked it up at a video rental store. R.I.P. to those.
Yeah.
And watched it at a sleepover or something.
Yeah. I mean, you see, my issue with it when I watched it at the time was that by the time I watched it, I had already seen all three of the George Romero Living Dead movies, and so when I watched it, it kind of felt like all three of those films sort of like smooshed into one a little bit for me, but I still enjoyed it because it was like low budget and it had like that real like sort of gritty feel to it. So I still enjoyed it a lot back then, you know. So but I hadn't actually rewatched it until like recently for this episode. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah. And I rewatched it with my sister and my dad, who they hadn't watched it since it had come out as well. So
Yep.
so it was fun kind of revisiting that for the first time in like a long time. So yeah, but you can definitely tell though, like this is probably one of those movies that like watching it then and now there is I mean one's opinion is probably very different, I would imagine, you know, because like you know, over time, I mean it kind of came out in the early 2000s, sort of like very early in the midst of that zombie craze.
Definitely tell by the editing style.
Yeah,
it was rough.
yeah,
The first thing I noticed was like there's some real rough hyper zoomed in quick cuts, which might be due to the low budget and stuff, trying to make things trying to hide any cheapness and get a little more action packed. But like, I mean, not into the next one later, but like it was a lot higher budget, but they still kept doing that kind of same editing.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that the thing is, in a way, I actually do still appreciate and enjoy the aesthetic, only because like a part of me is always gonna be very fond of the 480p picture quality.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it. That was nice. It was refreshing.
I think I appreciate it now more than I did when I first saw it.
Yeah. I mean that's kind of the picture quality that we learned to film stuff on, you know. I mean, I think the ones that we use were probably a slightly higher grade, only because like looking at this movie now, like it looks a lot rougher than I remember it being.
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I definitely I kind of dig it, honestly. It just has sort of a rusticness to it that is very charming, and it does something to the colors too. I don't know, it just like fades them out or something. It's like that Blair Witch quality. Kind of thing, yeah. So I guess as long as you're the type of person who can tolerate, for lack of a better word, the rough picture grade, I don't know. I mean, the movie is still pretty entertaining, I would say. Although not as gory as I remembered it being.
Yeah.
So.
Still my favorite of the three, I think.
Really? I had an opposite reaction.
Well,
like on the rewatch, because I remember when I like thinking up, I was like, oh, this is a badass movie. I love it. Great zombie film, like master quality. But then rewatching it, it was probably the biggest surprise of all the three that upon rewatch. I knew, spoiler, Week sucks. And then of course I was like, oh, Years can't be that great. So, and I was like, 28 Days is great. I already know that, so I'm just gonna watch it for fun. And then I was like, I don't know about this. This is not hitting as hard as it did, or as hard as I remember it doing.
I think I was the complete opposite of that. Because I think when I first watched 28 Days, I didn't like it that much, but now I really like it.
Interesting. Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm in two different camps a little bit, because I was already critical of it when I first saw it, you know, and I watched it. I'm pretty sure I watched it before I saw like the Dawn of the Dead remake and Land of the Dead and Shaun of the Dead and all that. I'm pretty sure. I'm like almost certain that I saw this before all of those, and I think just the familiarity of everything going on in it, like all the way leading up to the end, it just kind of threw me for a loop a little too much back then. Like, I think this might have even been one of the first movies I saw back then where I kind of had that reaction where it's like, wait, haven't I seen a movie like this before? So like
it does play on. I don't know if it plays into a lot of tropes, but at least started a lot of the zombie, like the fast zombies. I think it's probably one of the first one with fast zombies.
Yeah.
And then it did the dude waking up from a coma.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, because rewatching it now, I think I actually really do appreciate it more on its own terms, especially now that I've watched all three of the films in the trilogy, which we'll get to. But I think I got pretty into it this time. And it was mostly for the characters. I got really into the characters and their dynamic. And after watching all three of the films, in particular with the way I responded with 28 Years Later, which I still feel pretty mixed up and confused about, but we'll get to that. I think I'd say overall, out of the three, this is probably the one that I'd say was the most groundbreaking of the genre. Like, there's just something about
look at that for sure.
Yeah, like there's something about the like images in it, like the loneliness of the main character walking around the decimated streets of London while Godspeed is playing on the soundtrack. Like, there's something about images like that I think really do stand the test of time, because I look at that now and I had a pretty strong emotional response.
So that's the thing, is I loved that imagery, but then something that just broke me out of it was just the concept of, I don't know, 28 days isn't that long of a time frame for the world to go to shit. Especially for like a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Feel like if it did go to shit that fast, there would be zombies out on the streets still.
That makes sense.
Like, that's like, if we compare it to The Walking Dead's first pilot episode, it's the same thing. Rick wakes up from being in some type of surgery or some sort, and he encounters zombies basically immediately, and they're all throughout. It's basically him trying to run away from zombies from him waking up in wherever fucking Atlanta. But like, that's one thing that, like, I assume a lot of it had to do with the budget as well. But like,
yeah,
28 days for the entire continent of the UK to go into, like, it felt like it was longer, especially when he met up with Selena and the other dude. It's like they were hardened veterans of years of this apocalypse when it's kind of only 28 days. Like, I think it would still be fresh. They wouldn't really necessarily be all like, they had like that setup at the gas station all ready to go to fucking blow shit up on a dime. They were all prepped and geared up, and I was like, okay,
I hear ya.
This is only 28 days later. It's like not that long after an unknown kind of zombie apocalypse unfolding. I feel like it would still be like people learning the ropes still. And it just felt like a lot of people were already what felt like years into this apocalypse.
Well, okay, that actually makes
sense. I am
sense.
being fairly nitpicky and kind of poking holes in the plot. Where you could just turn your brain off and be like, okay, but I was just like, I mean, know.
It depends on how invested in the reality you are. Like, let's start from the beginning, because this movie actually does have a really cool opening scene. And actually, I would say
it is really cool to see that.
And I would say the opening scenes in this movie might have actually been the scariest part of the movie for me. Only because it was a lot more confusing than I remembered it being. Like, it starts off with basically just a lot of footage of atrocities, and then it zooms out and there's like a monkey hooked up to it. And the part that
Clockwork Orange monkey,
the whole Clockwork Orange style, like, I don't know. Okay, that was the thing I was a little confused about. Was the monkey already infected with rage, and were they trying to do the Clockwork Orange thing to brainwash it and make it desensitized to rage, or were they showing him the images to
Good question.
fuel his rage or fuel its rage? Like I didn't really like, because it seemed like they had already experimented on the monkeys already a little bit, because one of them had been like dissected or bisected,
and the scientists there did say they're infected with a rage virus.
Yeah, so but that
question.
That leaves the big question, though, is where did the rage come from? Like, where did the rage virus come from? Was it created in a lab, or did it come? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe it answered it at the opening
they did.
scene.
They did answer. He said, "How do we cure something? How do we cure something without having the actual thing?"
Oh, okay.
So my assumption from that line is they made the rage virus to find a cure for just general rage of, people.
Yeah.
I think that was the implied. So I do think, they made the rage virus to try and cure it.
Nice. Okay. So it's kind of like in the video game of Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl, where they end up in order to try to prevent the mutations, they end up sort of causing massive mutations as a result, like as a way of it, instead of because they try to distill it, but it ends up causing a massive problem, like a bigger issue instead, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of thing. Okay, so that makes sense, and I guess I would explain why they end up quarantining it later on in the future too. So,
and I also forgot that whole I knew that was how it was made, was rage monkeys, but I forgot they showed it.
Yeah, well, regardless, some animal rights folks, I can only assume some like PETA type people, show up and try to bust them out of the cages, and a scientist shows up and they corner him, and they're like, "No, you must stop, you don't know what you're doing, they're infected with the rage." The usual type of crazy shit. But the monkey, after they unlock it, the monkey ends up busting out and barfing right in the lady's face. And then she starts barfing and biting people. And then, before, minutes later, massive infection.
Yeah, it's like 20 to 30 seconds before they turn, right?
That's what I like about this version of zombies or whatever. It's real quick turnaround.
Yes.
As long as, because other ones are like 30 minutes to a few hours to a days in most zombie movies. But I like that it's just real quick. You have to even second guess if they're infected. You just can't even take a chance.
Yeah. And I gotta say that this movie, if there's anything it does really effective, it immediately establishes what makes this whole idea scary. It's the fact that it's rage, so it's not exactly zombies, so they don't move with any. You can't predict how they're going to move. There's no way to really actually coordinate fast enough ahead of time to be able to prevent anything from happening against these things. You can't think fast enough to save yourself, so you're going to inevitably make mistakes trying to escape these things, and you only have 30 seconds or less to escape if somebody gets infected. So
you can't even really, that's the thing that we saw a little later when Selena's friend got infected. She didn't even, it's like you can't even try to escape. You just have to straight up murder them quicker than they turn, which is conflicting because maybe they didn't get bit. It just seemed like they would, but you can't take that chance.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at Night of the Living Dead or even the Dawn of the Dead remake, both those movies are relatively leisurely paced, and so it takes time for you to actually kind of realize the scope of the epidemic. Whereas this movie, it just kind of bam hits you 28 days later, and he wakes up in the hospital and everything's gone to shit. The apocalypse more or less has happened, and he wanders out into the street, and there's a lot of ominous, questionable things, questionable signs of all kinds of things. That's the scary thing about this movie, is nothing is really concretely made clear about just how bad it's gotten. You just see the aftermath, and he goes to a church. He immediately gets spotted pretty spooky scene actually, where you see a couple infected folks look up at him and see probably the first person they've seen for a number of hours, and he gets attacked by a priest, which kind of thematically ties into something that happens in the third film. But he darts away from the church, and that's when he ends up encountering Selena and what's his name there? Mark. I almost said Mitch. Mark.
Mark. Yeah, I think it's Mark.
Yeah. And after
then I just want to say
firebombing.
Too, like, it's still me being nitpicky and pedantic, but like him waking up 28 days later from a coma, I don't know if that's possible if you're not hooked up to actual working machines and with people attending you, because he'd probably die of like dehydration. Because IV bags don't last 28 days, and like
yeah. I mean,
again, me being nitpicky, sure, it's just for the fun plot, but I was like, I don't know, you'd be like, unless he's hooked up to a vat of an IV of some sort, like I think he would die of dehydration.
I mean, that is something. Comas are always really tricky to get right with movies, and I totally get where you're coming from. I think I'm willing to suspend. Okay, maybe like a machine ran out of battery and it was hydrating him, and then he got dehydrated, and then something about his dehydrated activated something in his brain, and it awakened his consciousness or something. I don't know. I mean, I think
that's generally what happened, because he crawled down and started chugging Pepsi, which is the funniest ad placements in this movie were just Pepsi right in your face. But I don't know, just 28 days. I don't know if an IV bag would last that long.
Fair enough. Yeah. And
again, I mean, this is just me being nitpicky. So
yeah. And I guess that you could sort of argue the same point about Walking Dead too, by that extension as well. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. But yeah, and evidently his parents didn't think he was going to wake up either, because they decided, with him being gone and the rage virus ruining everybody's life, may as well not even go on living. Yep. So he quickly finds them after he goes back home, which is probably not the smartest thing to do. But I'd say at that point, if he's still waking up from a coma and he's still, oblivious.
Speaking of that, you just said not the smartest thing to do. That was the biggest thing that I was annoyed with in the rewatch of this movie. Is it just horribly falls into the horror movie trope of everyone doing the stupidest possible decision at all times.
Yeah.
Like, that was dumb. And then one that just pissed me off was, it's coming later, we can go over it or not, but when they were driving down, they drove into the tunnel. It's like, why? Why? What kind of, the dad was so obsessed about keeping his daughter safe, yet he did the worst. Like, that's a death trap. And then when it came to a blockade, he didn't even consider turning around saying, okay, fine, let's go around. No, he drove over the fucking blockade. Like, this is the dumbest fucking shit.
Yeah.
Dumbest decision. And then, of course, it ended up in a flat tire because you're driving over rusty fucking cars and shit.
Yeah, you're talking about that.
Pissed me off so much.
You're talking about the tunnel scene with all the rats.
Yeah.
That scene annoyed me back then, and it annoyed me just as much now. But we'll get to that. I definitely hear you. The one thing I will say is this movie does have a lot of scenes in it that are like scenarios almost, where, like, let's say that you were changing the channel on TV and you switched it to like a random and this was playing on TV. There's a lot of scenes in this movie where if you catch it like right at the beginning of the scene, like, you're gonna get hooked in the plot. And so, like, there's a lot of scenes like that I would say aren't really necessary for the plot, but I would say do have like some kind of I guess maybe all right. I guess I would just blame it on the fact that it's a horror movie and that it's trying to kind of be a somewhat conventional a little bit as far as being a horror film in that like you gotta have enough scary scenes that it feels like a horror movie still to people who go in to get scared and want to like grab onto their partner's arm and stuff. Like I think that this movie is really trying to play into that kind of thing more as those kind of audiences, which is actually not what I would say about the third film. But I would also say that the second film is not only playing into that kind of thing more, but I would also say the second film is a guiltier offender of the trope of characters making the worst choices at all points. But there is a point. There's a bigger point I want to make about that when we talk about the second movie. But regarding this movie, I would say a lot of the reasons the characters make a lot of poor choices probably has more to do with just the fact that it's trying to follow the horror film tropes a lot of the time, probably more than it should be. And really, I get why, because like we've all watched those shows that were like, wasn't there like a show on the Bravo channel way back in the day, like 30 scary movie moments and stuff, where like they showed a scene from this movie, which was, I think it might have even been the tunnel scene that pissed me off so much, where it's like a random person who hasn't seen that movie will watch that scene and be like, "Oh, that movie looks scary. I got to see that one now," And also, I think this movie may have even come out in the early internet age, like when like they were showing like full scenes from movies to promote movies around that time on the internet.
So
like
one, right, or something like that.
I think so, like either 2001, 2002, like
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah, so I think maybe this movie might be a little bit dated in those regards. So but I don't know, in a way it also kind of makes it kind of a charming product of its time too, like, so whatever. And also like the fact that the lead actor Cillian Murphy is now an Oscar winner like gives it its own sort of
first shot we see of him is his dong.
Indeed, like, which is even better. Like the first shot we see a close-up of his eye and then we see his genitalia in the following shot, so. And I'm never going to complain about any movie, especially horror movies, showing male genitalia. So, except for what was that one that Australian movie that we watched about those people that go to the island and there was just dongs all over the place. They like go to the island to like kill the scientist or what was it? Death Warmed Up. I think that might have been what it was called. Yeah, I remember that having like too much male nudity in it, even for me. Like it was just kind of like. I kind of want to see some gore with this horror movie. But let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So they get back to his apartment, they stay the night, and I think in the middle of the night they get attacked, and Selena's partner, you said his name was Mark, right? That's when he gets killed.
Or Matt, maybe. It's definitely and something.
Yeah, so he gets killed. No, he doesn't get killed by the infected. He gets killed because he gets bitten. So
Mark,
it's like,
it is Mark.
Yeah. So this movie
Selena just fucking smashes his face in her.
Yeah,
I forget. No, I think she had that machete. So yeah, she
just chops him into pieces immediately. She doesn't waste any time. But so like he gets bumped off. It's a pretty scary. Actually, I did find myself counting, honestly, after like I realized the character was infected. I was like, oh gosh, this guy has like 10 seconds left now or something. Like I did find myself doing that at a lot of points in this movie and in the second movie and well, actually not so much in the third movie, but anyway. So let's see. So then. I think that's after that that's when they meet with the family. They like see some lights. They run up. They have that chase scene in the apartment. Oh God, by the way, I'm starting to realize World War Z copied this movie too. Like that's another.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they meet up with them and the dad character, I used to find him annoying, mostly because of what ends up happening with him and the Crow later. But
Mad Eye Moody,
yeah, Yeah, now I
Mad
like him a lot.
Eye Moody.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, in this movie,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God, brilliant. Oh man. So I actually liked him in this viewing more than I did the first time I saw this film. I kind of liked that he sort of motivated them more or less, and was kind of the fatherly figure to all of them, and he kind of gave them his blessing a little bit, and to like Selena and what's his name, Jim. I know it's not Jim B. That's someone else. Yeah, Jim. Okay, Jim. There you go. He kind of gave his blessing to both Jim and Selena to almost be sort of surrogate parents to Hannah. You see, I'm getting better at names now.
You got it.
Yeah. So I kind of liked him a lot more this viewing, especially after watching 28 Years Later. So, because now I'm kind of thinking more about the family theme thing, you know.
What order did you watch it in?
I watched this one first, and then I started watching 28 Weeks Later, and I got so bored with it, I turned it off. Or no, I fell asleep as soon as people started getting shot. I like that's what happened when I started watching 28 Weeks Later. So I didn't end up rewatching that one right away, and instead ended up watching just jumping right to 28 Years Later, and because it had just come out, and it's like, yep. And then I ended up finishing 28 Weeks Later just this morning, actually. So because I'm like, all right, guess I'm just gonna proceed.
Just power through.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so in hindsight, I think, I don't know, I kind of feel like I watched it in the right order almost, you know. So, but maybe that's just
technically, yeah, because
yeah,
weeks doesn't matter anymore.
yeah, pretty much. That the whole situation they had going on in the second movie, they ended up resolving pretty fast, apparently. So, or maybe it wasn't fast, but I guess they resolved it. So I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that too. But so yeah, so their crew, they travel around. This is kind of the more Dawn of the Dead style section, which includes the killing of a child, you know, because Jim ends up sort of going renegade at one point.
Again, another dumb decision. I was like, come on. Come on.
It was a dumb decision, although it does actually say something about what the character is capable of and how he actually is able to hold his own.
Yeah.
So even though, I mean, I guess maybe in that case it doesn't count because it is just a kid after all. I mean, it's like the scene.
Or does it count more because it is a kid?
Oh yeah, good point. Good point. I didn't think about it that way, because I was thinking of like that scene in Dawn of the Dead where the cop it wasn't David, whoever it was, just blasts those two kids that ended up attacking him in the gas station. But anyway,
Jim's shown to be like a softy kind of caring dude too, but he turns out to be capable of just beating down a kid.
Yeah. No, he has nurturing capabilities, but yeah, no, absolutely. He can kill without problems, you know, without any problem really. So let's see. They go shopping, they look at some horses. There's a lot of, you know, moment of grace moments.
Yada,
or whatever they're called. Yeah.
But cute yada yadas.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I love those. Those tend to be my favorite kinds of moments in horror movies. You know, they provide levity, you know, especially in zombie movies. So
It's nice and refreshing.
Yeah. You got that one song by Granddaddy, you know, so that everybody loves, or loved. I don't know if anybody knows it nowadays. And then, but of course, and there's even that one dream sequence, which they actually do carry over to the other movies, a nightmare scene.
Oh yeah.
I totally forgot about that moment where he's like where everybody's gone. That got me going for a moment. I was like, oh. And anyway, not all the good times can last forever. They do eventually come to a barricade, and then that's when the dad starts losing his mind.
Yeah, this is so their whole point was they're driving to a supposed safe spot. Yes.
Yeah, because they hear over the radio that the military have a plan. So
I never do.
They never did. They don't in any of the movies.
And always was skeptical too. Even I think I was like, "Oh, is that true? I don't know."
Yeah. I don't know.
Ignore that. I would have stayed in that apartment building, honestly. That seemed pretty like they were complaining about not having water, but like it still is gonna rain eventually. They're not gonna like I don't know why they wouldn't want to stay there.
Well, that's the thing I actually did notice this time around watching it is they actually were skeptical, except the father. The father was the only one who pretty much did believe in this military group and pretty much put all of his hope into them. He's like, we got to get there. And they all kind of were like, I don't know, like
they
let's
had a
take
good
our time.
defensive setup in a high rise, like
yeah. I mean, Hannah was just scared throughout the first half of the movie. She didn't really do anything.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's like that high rise apartment was fairly safe. It wouldn't be that hard to gather water.
Yeah.
Like, in all realistic. Like, sure, like it's London and it rains a fuck ton, and he did mention, oh, it hasn't rained in like 7 days, fucking, and it always rains in London, and which is true. It's like always raining there, but like, just wait another week and you'll have plenty of water.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, no, I agree. It would have been smart to stay in the apartment. I am really trying to empathize with these characters and get inside of their heads a little bit and try and figure out, like, were they just panicked at the idea of just the possibility of getting attacked out of nowhere any second in their sleep? Or I don't know. I mean, maybe
they had a pretty good fucking defensive setup.
They did. They just had to turn on. Yeah, they just had to turn off their Christmas lights. You know, that's literally all they had to do. But whatever. I mean, I guess I really do try not to get too hung up because I guess everybody gets restless every once in a while.
Yeah,
especially if they're thirsty.
This is me being fucking nitpicky again too for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're thirsty, you're going to be crazy a little bit. You're going to be making the wrong choices. At least that's what we learned about the movie The Crazies, like from that. Which this actually, I'd say 28 Days Later, sort of, there were a couple elements that reminded me of The Crazies. The original, not so much the remake, actually. But whatever. Let's see. So they get to the barricade. The dad gets frustrated because it doesn't seem like there's any sign of life. And I think he even snaps at them. And then that's when he kind of attacks the crow, which this part always used to piss me off as a kid. Because, I mean, just a single drop of blood in the eye, man. What a pitiful way to go.
I honestly, I'll say this is one of my favorite ways that's been captured on film of zombie turning. Like,
admittedly,
like one of the coolest ways we've ever seen someone get turned into a zombie. It's just like so specific, so random. The chance is so low. Like it's just like, wow, they went for it, and it was just really cool. I don't know. It's dumb. It
was brilliantly acted.
I mean, it was just so cool. Like
the acting was brilliant, and really, like that's what struck me about it the most this time is again the emotional
actor too. It's just like shit.
I got a very, very strong emotional response out of the scene this time. Mostly because I knew it was coming and I didn't want it to happen because I actually did feel for his character, and then when it happened, it was really heartbreaking. And
when I first saw it, it blew my mind. Like, whoa, shit, that was cool. And this time I was just like, oh my god, yes, let's see it, let's go.
No, I was blown away this time, I will say, and I will talk about the scene in the second movie a little bit too because I didn't react to it the way I thought I would this time, I will say. But I'll talk about that. But I definitely the first one and the second film, they both have really intense infection scenes where the characters are like responding to getting infected, you know, that you can see now why they get put out of their misery immediately. Yeah. But before he's able to actually go after them and rip them to shreds, they get blasted. He gets blasted by the military unexpectedly.
Yeah.
This is when the movie takes a sharp left turn, basically, is what they like to call it. Where suddenly they're in uncharted territory because they're in with these intense, aggressive
buffoons.
Yeah, admittedly, they are pretty dumb.
Every single one of them are just, except for like the main guy, they're all just fucking dumbasses.
Yeah. In fact, I actually remember them being scarier than they actually are.
Yeah, me too. When I first watched it, I thought they were frightening, but then I was just, oh no, these guys are just dumbasses.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much how my dad and my sister reacted too. It's like, wait a minute, like, weren't these? I thought this was like a lot worse. And don't get me wrong, like, I actually do love the theme that these movies have going on about like the humans being the real monsters or whatever, or like the humans being the real people, like the real threat that you have to worry about, like behind the infection and stuff.
No,
the uninfected
like most zombie. I don't know if this.
Most it didn't. It definitely didn't start it, but I like the fact that it's continuing that tradition.
Yeah, it's how the whole Walking Dead is from like Walking Dead in itself. The title is like, oh yeah, the Walking Dead are they say the people are the Walking Dead, you know, not the zombies.
I guess I just felt like the threat in this movie was a lot less intimidating than usual, than I expected, you know, especially for people who are military trained and are holding out to weapons. They don't seem very coordinated, and they don't seem to have a. I mean, it's like I guess that's a continuing theme in this movie. The military don't have a plan, and I guess that's really what it comes down to: is these people are without a plan. You know, they're scared. They're scared.
It did make me wonder too, if any, like, were they just some of them pretending to be military that were just gathered up by the main guy, and maybe like the one dude that was actually noble and tried to help, like, they just wanted to set up they wanted to make themselves look like they're military, but they just gathered a couple of survivors they found and put suits on them, because none of them, like, most of them were just dumbasses and couldn't fire weapons even.
I know, and the thing is, I did like Christopher Eccleston. I think he's the same actor who played Doctor Who, right? I think that's who. Yeah. I did like him. I thought his character was interesting. I wanted to see him do more. Like there really wasn't much there. You know, they kind of introduce him. They kind of make you think he's going to be more of a threat than he actually is. I guess he kind of is, because he ends up being the one who fires the gun at the end. But like, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to say I expected more. Like, there could have been more there. There could have been a bigger threat there that I wouldn't have seen coming, maybe. But whatever. It was still good. It had some cool moments. I mean, you know, they slowly realized that these military folks really, like, their plan isn't a plan. They basically just have one thing on their minds, which is repopulation, which is more or less out of desperation.
I don't even know it's repopulation is the idea. I felt that it was just more like guys wanting to get some.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, a lot of the characters were talking about, like, being driven crazy or whatever. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's a rage epidemic. Like, obviously, sex really would be the last thing on a lot of people's minds at that point.
Yeah.
So, especially procreation. I mean, although kudos to this trilogy for actually sticking with this theme too, remarkably enough. which was another thing I didn't expect out of 28 Years Later. Which again we'll get to because I don't want to belay it. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. I don't want to take too much longer getting to it, but but in conclusion, I mean, really, it goes about as well as you expect. They pretty much they make it a goal to get rid of Jim almost immediately before he really even has time to fight back or even to protect Selena, which that frustrated me a little bit too because there did come a point where it sort of seemed like Selena kind of shifted a little bit.
That was honestly, that was like, I wrote it in my letterbox review.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing that took big points off this movie is the characterization of her.
Yeah.
It was so jarring that like she was a badass in the beginning and then just there was just an instant flip somewhere like after maybe like the gas station where Jim killed, like she just turned into a softie, like and there wasn't any type of inciting incident. Like it was before the dad died, which that would have been a good time to make her flip.
Yeah,
Because she was like, well, we have to protect her now. But no, she kind of like was like, oh yeah, this is so sweet. She like they kissed before, like while at that little campsite, and it was just like, why did she turn into like a complete detached badass that would do anything for her own survival? But now she's just like, oh, I'm now a softie and I can't defend myself, even though beforehand she was totally proven to be capable of defending herself. Like it's like, that's what like honestly that dropped a few points in my book of this movie is her character. Like I didn't see a reason.
Yeah, like, I mean, I got the sense it was pretty much only because they were holding guns. But aside from that, really, like, and I guess I understood why she got Hannah all stoned.
Yeah, that was a fair decision, but she didn't. I don't know. I just feel like she gave up when she kind of beforehand was like the type that wouldn't give up. That I came off as like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by how helpless she got. You know, and especially because it kept on jumping back and forth between what was going on with Jim and what was going on with her. And of course, the thing about Jim, which I think this was probably my favorite part of the movie, was aside from the opening scene, was, you know, they're going to go take him out along with that other dude who ends up sort of pretty much being a bit of a defector there.
Yeah, I liked him a lot because he was like, probably like the only other, like that's why I think that a bunch of the other dudes probably weren't military and he was the only other one that was besides the general.
Yeah.
Like, no, fuck, this is fucked up. When he like turned the gun on everyone else. I was like, no, we're not gonna use these girls. No,
not at all.
You.
And he didn't want to follow protocol. And what I was surprised by was how the idiot cook, well, they call, I assumed that was supposed to be what the character was supposed to be, an idiot cook. He was the one who ended up pulling the trigger on him. It wasn't the aggressive guy. It was him who did it, which ended up justifying why Jim ended up killing him later, because that was something that threw me off a bit when I first saw it, was the fact that Jim killed him. I didn't understand why, because for some reason I had the impression when I was younger that all he did was, you know, fuck up the omelet there. But then when I saw him shoot that guy, I was like, holy crap, screw that guy. Like, yeah, now he's got to die, you know? So that was cool.
But to be fair, you could look at it as the way too, is like the other guy was being more sadistic. He wanted to stab him to death.
Right.
And I think the idiot cook was like, no, let's just take him out quick instead.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Well, the other guy is a sadist, which is why he got killed in a really sadistic way, I'd say. Where actually that guy, I will say that might have been the only part in this movie that did make me cringe a little bit, was when Jim gouged out that guy's eyes when he busted through the ceiling and you know, busted into his face. Yeah. And then Selena almost kills him because, you know, she already said at the beginning she's not going to hesitate. But you know, at that point in the movie, she's sort of, like you mentioned, sort of gotten to a pretty vulnerable place. Maybe she's in a state of shock or something. And she actually doesn't kill him. And then you got that really romantic line there, because she mentions, I will kill you in a heartbeat. And he's like, well, that was longer than a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But beautiful, and the way Murphy delivers that line. I can imagine a lot of girls who saw the movie in the theater that got their hearts swooning, to see him covered in blood. I know it got my heart swooning back in the day, Nowadays, I'm like, you're Oppenheimer. You want an Oscar. I don't, I mean, you're good. You're good.
That was, I did like that whole sequence too. Like,
Yeah.
Cillian did like overall look like an infected, like he was covered in blood, just being ruthless. It's like stalking him like a infected would kind of thing, and just acting like an infected, but he wasn't.
Yeah. So I definitely, no, that was a brilliant scene. That's the thing. There were so many brilliant scenes in this movie. That's why it's kind of a bummer that, like, if you actually follow the plot, it is sort of like another zombie movie, but it's not a zombie movie exactly, even though it is kind of, like, depending on how you look at it. But then the movie
it is. I think at this point we have to call them infected movies, because there's now there's so many different sub split outs now with like The Last of Us. They're not technically zombies either. That kind of shit. It's like
exactly. So let's see. So then they have this big escape thing where Christopher Eccleston shows up out of nowhere. I mean, at this point, the whole army's become infected because Jim
I loved that. That was a smart move, letting that one they had hooked up. He was just let's just fuck shit up. He lets loose one of the zombie. The army captured a zombie to just see how they work and more or less how long it would take them to die of starvation.
Exactly. They did the Day of the Dead thing only without the whole guinea pig thing. The scientist stuff. It's the military waiting to see how long he starves. Which I will say, I was rooting for that zombie when he showed up and busted through that window. I was like, hell yeah.
It was a great use of controlled chaos from Cillian Murphy's character.
It really was. It really, really was. I loved it. And and that's why it was when he gets shot by Christopher Eccleston there at the end, it's kind of like, oh God, all right, well, I guess they didn't quite make it. So then they have to bust through the barricade, and there's a lot of momentum.
Because it was just a gut shot, it looked like. So it was like,
that's the thing.
Not necessarily. Like it hurt. I heard it hurts a lot, of course.
It does, yeah.
But definitely survivable getting shot in the gut.
Yeah, for sure. And then, at the end, then the movie just sort of very jarringly cuts to an epilogue. And I do know that there are some versions of the movie with a different ending where Jim dies. I am aware of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think that at one point they showed that version in theaters for some reason, or showed that ending in theaters, where they escape and then it cut. So how, like, it says 28 days later, and then like it shows like brief shots of him in the hospital.
Yep.
So on the DVD and in certain versions of the film, that scene actually, like, it doesn't say 28 days later. Instead, it cuts to him in the hospital, and they try to revive him, and he bleeds out. And then Selena and Hannah are there, and they cry, and then they leave, and then the movie ends. That's the way it originally ended at one point. But then somebody had a change of heart along the way in post-production, and they had a different ending where they're on an island. And they've pretty much established like a makeshift family now. And they're kind of living off the grid communally. Jim got that little glimmer of hope earlier before he, after he ran away from those guys that were going to execute him. He saw a plane in the sky, and that revived his hope of maybe there is civilization out there after all. And so they're on an island. They see a plane in the sky. They say hello on the ground. And then you're kind of left with an ambiguous question about whether or not the plane saw them. And you don't really get an answer, but I guess that's okay. So because they survived, and they're together. So yeah, no, good movie. Overall, I mean, even though I would say it does kind of have some conventional aspects. Do you want to share your thoughts, Zach? You haven't really talked a whole lot about it. What do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it overall. I think talking about it made it a little lower on the list, maybe.
Yeah, I
I
mean, yeah,
definitely see the points of it being kind of basic.
I mean, I'd say the second movie is the basic one, but
Yeah,
we'll get
Yeah,
into that more.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what I think it is? I think it's the best. It's a perfect movie to watch on Halloween, is what it is. Because when you watch a movie on Halloween, you want to watch something that's scary and kind of predictably scary, but you also want to watch something that's like that doesn't break the rules too much and do its own thing too much. And I would say if you haven't seen too many zombie movies and you watch this like in the right state of mind, I could imagine people still getting pretty into this.
Yeah,
Um,
especially like stylistically too.
Oh,
yeah, yeah. If you watch The Walking Dead at all, forget it. If you watched the George Romero trilogy, forget it. But if you're open minded about like rustic, cheap filmmaking and you can dig a fun, gnarly little horror movie every so often, then I think it's still pretty cool. I think it's still pretty tight. I definitely appreciate it more than I like it. I'd still give it probably like a 3.5 overall out of 5. But I don't know. I mean, I'd say on the right day, I'd give it a 4. So
Yeah, I gave it a 4.
nice, cool. Yeah.
yeah, I gave it a 3.5 too. Just because, I mean, I did like from memory, I would have given it like a 4.5
Hmm.
probably, but like on the rewatch, it kind of knocked it down. I was like, some of this doesn't, like I said, it's probably might be me just being nitpicky and stuff, but then
Yeah.
it's still really good. Still
Yeah.
really definitely not genre defining, but genre shifting. They did a lot that I think inspired following movies like
Mm.
fast zombie type shit and
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah. It made a new it pretty much like reignited the genre,
Yep.
and yeah, it definitely has a lot of memorable scenes, and
The fucking
so
score
classic scenes.
too, that
Yeah.
slow build.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that
Dude,
score is so I
oh man.
like not to go into the third, but I wish they had that in some scene somewhere. Like they had it
Yeah.
a very mixed up version at the very end, but I wish they
Oh
had
yeah.
that classic score in years.
Well,
So good that
I mean, I have kind of similar feelings about the score of the third film as I do about the film. Very confused, mixed up, and intrigued. But let's see. Regarding the music in this one, though, like I think the soundtrack in this is pretty tight and pretty amazing. It's got that great Brian Eno song that everybody, or that Brian Eno piece, I should say, that everybody loves. What's music for soundtrack or ending for a film? I don't remember what the name of the piece is, but I've heard it in a lot of things.
yeah,
And this
that
movie
theme is
uses it
just
great. Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
it just keeps
Mm.
crescendoing, and it's just like they use it perfectly too,
Yeah.
and it's just like so good and fits
Yeah.
so well, and then in
Hmm.
weeks they use it, but it's just they just use it, and it's not like it's
Well,
not placed well at all.
I
It's just like
well,
they just use it to use it.
I absolutely the score of the second film might be my favorite score of the 3 films, believe it or not. But I don't really like the way it's used in the movie. I like listening to it on its own, honestly, because the way it's used in the movie is frustrating. But
They use it in the very
uh,
first. Well, I don't know if
the opening scene
yeah.
in the second one, yeah, no,
Yeah.
they did, and I
And
like the way
that
he
was the
used it.
perfect place to use it too. But then
Yeah,
but they use it throughout a few other times and it didn't
yeah,
fit.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I guess my final thoughts on 28 Days Later. Excellent movie, but I could do without the tunnel scene. That's what I'd say.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Right. That would bump my score up.
Yeah.
They
Because
didn't have
really,
that scene.
I'd say the tunnel scene in hindsight is the only scene that really sticks out to me as being sort of a little extra. And not even because it's a bad scene, but just because I guess it doesn't really make sense for the characters to do that. But
I'd say
whatever.
it's a bad scene.
It ended up working out in their favor, luckily. So I guess that, good for them. So anyway, okay. All right. Well, 28 weeks later, the sequel. I know that we've been kind of shitting on it pretty hard.
I mean, technically the sequel, but technically also not anymore.
That's the thing. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, okay, I guess the reason I'd say that this movie pisses me off is because in some ways it's actually the most well-made of the three. Like, as far as the filmmaking goes, and actually it's got a pretty awesome cast too, like this is another example of a movie that basically it's just the script again, basically. Like the script just kind of bites.
Didn't have Danny Boyle or Alex Garland involved in it either, so
Mm-hmm. And you can tell, so like,
yeah,
as far as filmmaking, as far as like, especially the music, as far as like sound design, acting, all that stuff, I mean, it's actually, I'd say, a pretty quality movie. But the script, and I usually don't use sound effects, this is my review of the script. Could you guys hear that?
No.
Oh, well, it was the sound of a toilet flushing, basically. So I just yeah, I mean, I don't know, it just seemed like a waste a little bit. Like it was a waste of cool ideas. It was a waste of cool sort of atmosphere. I don't know. I like the opening scene is, again, the best part of the movie, I would say.
Yeah.
And
that's like the only reason I gave it the rating I did was like just because of the opening scene. And I do think that from what I remember reading is that Alex Garland, Danny Boyle did kind of, that was the only thing they had to do with this entire movie was maybe wrote the first, because I think they had a little bit of involvement, but I think their biggest contribution was only the opening scene. And then it was just passed off to whoever the fuck finished it off.
Yeah.
And I could be completely wrong, but I think I just read that somewhere on the internet, but it would make sense if it was true.
I mean, you might be right. I mean, I guess so. I mean, all right, Robert Carlyle, he's one of those actors who, like, when you look at his face, he's the best at exhibiting any kind of emotion, whether it be rage or confusion or depression or joy or whatever. He's just got the most vibrant emotions ever. Anything that he's expressing, you can feel. And so the film is like, it kind of starts off pretty much more or less following him right at the beginning. And you pretty much it's immediately established that he's kind of more of like the survivalist mindset, Yeah. He's like in a farmhouse with like a couple different groups of people and his wife, and there's like some noise that happens outside, or no, there's a knock actually, and his wife, of course, but he's the one who's like, nope, don't answer it, nobody's home, would just, but of course, I think it was his wife who goes to get the door and brings whoever the kid is in, and then you get a real intense sequence that happens where the place basically just suddenly gets ransacked out of nowhere while somebody is kind of looking to see if the coast is clear. At least I'm assuming that's what they were doing. It was like whoever that girl was. And I can't remember exactly who gets killed first. I know that the elderly couple that they're with end up biting it pretty bad. I think in that farmhouse area.
Yeah,
I don't know.
they all
So much
just,
happens.
it was awful.
Yeah.
It happened quick.
Yeah.
I think that girl was the first because she was looking out, and then just
Yeah.
the hand grabbed her and
Yeah.
bit her and shit, and because she had like a boyfriend that went out to do, I don't know, some surveillance or stuff, and she was like,
Yeah.
maybe he's out there, he'll be back, and then
Yeah.
she was always worried about that.
Yeah, but like that's just the sense of desperation and just nobody knows what to do and everybody makes poor split second choices and stuff and eventually Robert Carlyle ends up pretty much abandoning his wife while she's getting attacked, which I know a lot of people I know when they saw it gave him shit for it. I actually
I wouldn't give him shit for it because like,
yeah, I got it.
she was literally in a corner surrounded by a few of them, and you're like, uh, you did, girl. You suck. You did.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I agree.
what would any like? It's a death sentence to go try and help her. Like I completely sympathize with his decision to just say, sorry, sorry, my love, but
Yeah,
you
should.
did.
Yeah, you shouldn't have let that. You shouldn't have let that damn kid inside of the house.
Yeah.
I mean, he was right the first time. Like that. Just don't open the door. It's like literally people are dying. Like I don't know, but whatever. I mean, it's a horror movie. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It made sense to me that he fled. So I'm not the kind of person to give somebody crap over that kind of thing.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like I completely understand that decision. It's like,
yeah,
it sucks, but
it does suck. But that's the thing that's scary about these movies is that like nobody knows what they're going to do in a split second, this like the situation where they don't know how to make the right choice at that moment. Like it's a crazy out of control situation and you're gonna make poor choices because you're only human. I mean, that's what's scary about it. That's what the horror of this situation is. So yeah. And when he gets on that boat and that other dude is like he slips off like right near the engine and falls into the water, and like maybe it's because I'm older and I've become more sensitive, but that face that he made when he's in the water, where he looked like he knew he was doomed, and he just looked so scared. Like I don't know who that actor was, but I felt so bad for him at that moment when he's
like
in the water.
Like, he did try to help him up, like
yeah,
like for what it's worth, like he didn't just straight up ditch him out. Like
yeah,
he did try and pull him up, but
he did. Yeah,
like it's not like he was like being like an asshole and just saying, no, fuck you, I'm getting the fuck out of here. No, he did try and actually put effort into helping him up, but like the zombie the zombie grabbed him and fucking took him under and shit. So it's like, he did try. It's not like he's a heartless bastard. Like he just was making the correct decisions given the situation and the time frame he had.
Given that he was experiencing like basically what looked like a panic attack, I'd say he did pretty damn well. You know, like as he's getting away, he's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh god, oh shit. Like he still thinks he's getting attacked, even though he's like, several yards away at that point. I mean, that's pretty much what a panic attack looks like.
Yeah.
So like, so then it jumps ahead 28 months later. So
and then that's the best part of the movie. So.
Yeah. Yeah,
we're basically done with the review.
Yeah, because after this, it more or less kind of just turns into. Okay, I mean, have you seen Cloverfield? Have you seen Demons 2? Like, you've basically seen 28 Weeks Later. If you've seen either one of those, and even if you haven't seen, well, yeah, then the tunnel scene and a couple other moments in Cloverfield, like, definitely felt reminiscent of this movie, at least in my view. Like, but and there's some other movies this reminded me of too, but basically, like, yeah, it pretty much just becomes they more or less have managed to figure out some way of getting the virus isolated from the general populace, or at least to the degree that they are aware of.
From what I can tell, they basically eradicated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said there was no one, like they're just cleaning up bodies, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. You get some cool character introductions. You get Jeremy Renner, who is like a random sniper who seems to have a little bit more of a mind of his own than his superiors do. I wonder if that's going to be important later or not.
I forgot he was in this movie too when I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay.
Yep. This movie's got a cool cast, dude. It's got a bunch of people in it that before they were famous. Like it's got what's her name, Megan Poots, Jeremy Renner, and yeah, before Jeremy Renner was in the Marvel movies, but kind of after he was kind of getting tired of being in nothing but indie films. So that was that. So that's pretty cool. Rose Byrne shows up too,
I
and
love
actually,
her.
yep.
She's
She
so
plays a
pretty.
pretty important. She's gorgeous, and she plays a pretty important role.
Yeah.
Idris Elba is in it. I didn't expect him to show up.
Fucking sober. Like that was so far. Was it before he got big? I don't know.
Yeah, kind of. This might have been like a
Wire.
side project. Yeah.
Like I don't know when The Wire must have been before.
I think it was before this, but
I don't know if The Wire popped him off, but
yeah, it gets a little complicated with television because
I think he popped off after he had his role in The Office.
Yeah, I mean, most people I know still haven't watched The Wire, so would believe it or not, which I know sounds crazy, but most people I know have watched Breaking Bad, so give or take, I guess. But let's see. Yeah, so you get their kids show up, Robert Carlyle's, and he has to try to sort of. I mean, okay, so like this is my problems with this movie basically start almost immediately because
after the first scene.
Yeah, because they want to go see their mom, but their mom is dead. I mean, Robert Carlyle says that she's dead, which is he doesn't say that she's dead. He kind of implies that
he just said said she saw her get maybe bitten or
yeah, which actually didn't end up being a lie because she did get bitten. It's just he didn't see it.
He didn't say that she saw her die.
Yeah,
he just said she saw her got attacked, and he was like, I couldn't do anything, and that was the truth. He wasn't lying to them.
Yeah, he said he did say he tried to go back, but that it was too late. That part was the lie, but I mean, it was probably because they were like he had rehearsed that speech several times. I did like that speech a lot because you could tell it was like one of those awkward sort of like, how do I explain to my kids that the guilt I feel over abandoning my wife type of deal. I mean, I don't know. He was a really tragic character from the start. So
it was fucked up to have him in that situation because it's just like, I could have tried to help, but there's this almost less than 0% chance I would have been, and then I'd be dead, you'd be orphans.
Yeah, pretty much. And every other time Robert Carlyle's face was on screen, it would like cut to a shot of his wife's face, which implied that he still felt guilty about it because he's still haunted by her face. Yeah, so
completely fair, but like he did the right, especially since he had kids too. Like that makes his decision in that point.
He didn't want them to be orphans.
Yeah, like a better option is like
basically what we're trying to say is that I feel like this movie followed the wrong characters. Like I kind of feel like this film it actually might have been interesting if it just followed him and actually like tried to explore who he was, flaws and all, like like maybe him trying to reconcile with whether or not he did the right thing. That would have been a much more interesting angle to explore.
He's definitely the best part of the movie for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And once he leaves the movie, there's not really a whole lot left to care about ultimately. I mean, the kids, I tried to care about them, and I almost usually do when it comes to movies that have kids in them, but the kids in this are kind of blank slates. Like, they spend time in America they mostly just, or no, Spain. That's it. Yeah, sorry. Why did I think America? Oh, because it's in South America. They mostly
Spain's in Europe.
Oh, Europe. Okay, so I'm all over the place with my geography. I apparently don't know where Spain is, but so they were in Spain, but they mostly just they didn't really say anything about it other than the refugee camps weren't good. And that's kind of it, you know, but they wanted to see their mom, so they managed to somehow infiltrate military strongholds.
I don't even think they wanted to see their mom because it was their understanding she was dead. They just wanted to go back to their
they
home.
wanted to find a picture of her.
I think they just maybe that, but I think they just wanted to go back home to their house.
Maybe, yeah.
It's like,
because their dad said we can't go back, and but then I think the son was like, well, I want to go back because we don't have a picture of her, you know, and he's the one who's got like the two eyes thing, like the
heterochromia,
yeah, which I guess somehow makes you immune to the disease or something is the twist. I don't know, an
indicator. I don't
know. No, you can be a carrier. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, obviously that's important because that actually does end up factoring into the plot.
Another trope, another zombie movie trope is someone's immune.
Yeah. Seen that before, you know, but they managed to sneak by all these military guys, except for Jeremy Renner, who does radio, but they still take their sweet time getting to them.
That's one thing that pissed me off is how did they get more than a block?
Yeah, and they even took a bike. Like they got all the way to the apartment.
They took their sweet ass time taking that bike too, because they explored that little pizza joint for like fucking, I'm assuming 15-20 minutes. Like
that was funny.
That would be long, and they weren't far from
especially with how fast that helicopter moves later.
Oh yeah. That was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But yeah, no, I like it was kind of also it was also rather convenient too that when they actually do get there, she managed to actually find a way back. Like this, I mean, I don't know, maybe, I guess it doesn't matter, but they do find her, and at first they assume that she's, you know, like that she's happy to see them or whatever. But then, you know, she starts getting a little bit too physical with them and starts kind of pressing herself too hard against the boy's torso. So then at that moment, the military show up and they immediately quarantine her, put her in the room with all the hazmat suits, all that stuff, you know. And it's like, and that's when Rose Byrne determines, like, well, she's a carrier. She really is. And she's actually pretty gorgeous. Like giving like military speeches, you know, new fetish unlocked. Right. I mean, yeah, she's honestly probably the most intimidating character in the whole movie in certain ways, other than maybe some of the infected people. Like, but and that's kind of what makes it interesting that she ends up being kind of like one of the big heroes too, you know. I mean, you kind of already know she's a good character from the start anyway, but still. Anyway, so she's in the room. They try to talk to her. She mostly just talks about how she wants to see her kids. Robert Carlyle ends up trespassing through the quarantine zone.
Yeah, because he's like a, I don't know.
Yeah.
What would you say? Like a HOA kind of thing.
Yeah.
Of just the residents. He has full access to everywhere.
Yep. He's got the keys, everything.
Like he's just like the maintenance dude, basically, of the survivors. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and at this
point, for some reason, they give. So that's also stupid as fuck. Like, sure, I understand. Like, he went through it. He has survival expertise. He knows what to do. Like, sure, give him access to being able to help the survivors coming in. But why the fuck would they give his card access to like this deep military sections, this deep medical sections where he could just have free roam and
Yeah.
like,
Especially since
what the
there's people
fuck?
literally like walking by him too while he's unlocking the door. They're like, meh, and they just walk by.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's good at, setting up
Mhm.
apartments for new
Mhm.
survivors and
Yeah.
stuff, but
Hmm.
he's also apparently allowed to just go into the research facilities,
Yeah.
the military. Like, I didn't.
Yeah.
Why?
No. And
Why does he have
and
access to that?
yeah. And of course, he goes into the room, and while that's happening, it cuts back and forth between that and Rose Byrne talking about how like she's a carrier. That means she's still infected. We got to keep her away from everybody. But then it's like, oh, Robert Carlyle's in there. So now I will say, yes, the setup is extremely contrived.
Mhm.
But I have to say, like, upon this watch, like this scene actually did get me. And I actually did cry. And it's because of Robert Carlyle's acting. And it's because of the acting of the wife, too. Like, that's what I mean when I say that this movie is actually really well made, is that, like, the acting and the filmmaking and stuff and the intensity of the scene and the way it escalates and stuff is outstanding. Like, that's some
Yes.
great horror.
This definitely was one of the better parts of the movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, because it's just like I wonder too if like what I was wondering when watching, like, because the wife was shown to be like a little not all there, like,
Hmm.
especially when she met the kids in the apartment, and like
Yeah.
does like she's not fully rage taken over, but like is it affecting her?
Yeah.
And then in that scene where like this is where we're getting into like, okay, so is she still has resentment towards him of like, is she aware that kissing him will infect him, and that is, I was like, is she purposely infecting him because she's pissed off that he left her? That was my like, is this she's doing it on purpose to fuck him? Like,
I mean, it's possible,
like that's
but,
kind of what I took away. Like, I think like she,
well, the
I
only
think
thing
she was
though,
like, because the thing is, I think she was aware by talking to the medical staff and Rose
yeah,
Byrne that she's a carrier. I think she might have some inkling that she
okay.
could infect people.
Well,
And
that's
I
exactly what I was thinking at first. Yes. But what were you about to say real quick? You can finish your thought.
because I in that case, otherwise, like if she didn't know she was infected, and I don't think she, like if it was a typical romance type of situation, I don't like saw her husband left her to die. Would
Yeah.
she actually kiss her husband, or would she just like in any case tell him to just fuck off? I don't want to see you
Yeah.
ever again. Leave me alone.
Yeah. Well,
Like that's my
yeah.
thing is like, did she let him kiss her because she knew she was gonna infect him and just kill him because of what he did to her?
Oh, I'll explain it because I actually misremembered this entire scene. Because that's what I remembered it being when I first saw it. Rewatching it now, I was paying much closer attention to the character dynamics and stuff like that, and specifically how how their dynamic was at the beginning of the film. Robert Carlyle's and his wife's. I don't know who she's played by. I feel bad, but she did a great job. Yeah. But she definitely seemed a lot more naive than he did. And my gut instinct tells me that she didn't think that she was infected. And the reason I believe that has pretty much everything to do with the way she reacted once he started getting infected. Because once he started getting infected and reacting and coughing and barfing and going ballistic, she started panicking and shrieking and screaming and crying, and she was strapped down, so there was nothing that she could do. And then when he started ripping into her and going all Lucio Fulci on her face and like cracking her skull open and all that shit, the whole time she seemed to be like not very happy about it. So that indicates to me that she probably didn't think that she was infected.
She knew she had to have something, like at least because she was bitten.
But she was also naive. She's the type of person that would let a kid in during emergency quarantine situation, so, or emergency epidemic. So
Yeah, that is.
I don't know.
It's a fair point. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, the movie escalates and goes to hell, pretty good. So this was good. I like the momentum that this movie built here, where everybody's in a panic, everybody's trying to figure out like what the hell is going on. You gotta follow military orders because if there's an infection going on, you gotta move. And then you got a really great scene where Robert Carlyle's in a pitch black hallway, with a crowd full of people. It's super claustrophobic. I love that scene. The kids hiding in the van. It's just like massacre after massacre of people just getting ripped to shreds. This is the goriest of the three films in the trilogy, I'd say, just because of how many people are getting ripped to shreds.
I mean, I think the third one had some.
Yeah,
decapitations.
That's true. You're right. There are. I mean, the third film is definitely disgusting. So, but I guess this has the highest body count. I would say. Yeah. As far as like number of people getting killed, But Jeremy Renner, he pulls a. Who's the guy from Force Awakens? The stormtrooper who turns against his own kind. There.
John Boyega.
Yeah, John Boyega.
He's not in this.
No, but Jeremy Renner pulls a John Boyega. And decides to
defect.
Defect from his superiors and help the good guys. And
but I will say, like, before we just a little backtrack a bit, is like the stupidest decision of the military to confine all the survivors into just that one claustrophobic spot.
Yeah,
it's like the dumbest decision ever because like it takes one little mistake to it all go to hell.
Yeah,
and even if there wasn't an infected, it was like from the in 28 days. We heard Mark, I think it was, he's the one that told the story of his sister getting trampled underfoot by people at the so it would be that kind of situation regardless of there was an infected. But like once there's an infected, which happened,
it did.
It's just you literally just sicked hundreds of infected onto your base now, like
basically
because they knew there was an outbreak. And you fucking did stupid shit again.
Yeah, I know. And then of course they start offing people. And I don't know. I mean, when it comes to these kinds of movies, like you do obviously want to have some kind of threat beyond the infection. Sure. Especially if people are able to outsmart the infected. It's just this movie did kind of reach a point where it just got a little bit too senseless, like because you get these random citizens showing up who go along with them, and of course they're going to be the first ones to get blasted. Jeremy Renner immediately decides to sacrifice the one guy and have him zoom out, which surprisingly the little kid decides to jump in instead and be the brave one, which it ended up working out anyway because Jeremy Renner was able to take out the sniper on the roof and get them outside of the fire zone. But then all the innocent people end up getting lit up. I know that there did come a point where they did rendezvous with Idris Elba with the helicopter, but the dude that they were with...
No, not Idris Elba.
Or not Idris Elba. Who was it?
The guy from Lost.
Yeah.
That's a lie. He's from Lost.
Yeah.
Walt. His name isn't Walt.
Yeah. I know who...
His kid when Lost was Walt.
I'm trying to remember.
Him just screaming, Walt!
Yeah. Oh my God. That's Lost. I need to... I actually did kind of like the ending to Lost, but I understand why everybody was pissed off by it because it pissed me off too. But anyway, I'm not gonna talk about Lost. But the helicopter scene was campy as hell.
Oh my God!
It works for something like Planet Terror. Was that what it's called? Planet Terror, the Robert Rodriguez Grindhouse. It works for something like that.
This was just silly. I was like, okay, I don't think that's how helicopters work because I know their blades are very delicate. Like,
Yeah,
and it also would take extreme precision to do that close to the ground. Like,
it did. Yeah, and like I didn't even understand the decision to begin with because it looked like he was just trying to get that one dude to let go of the tail. And of course the guy got covered in blood, which I'm assuming means he was infected by that
yeah,
point. So
he was.
yeah, and
So he mowed down, like, just to say,
yeah,
like, he mowed down
yeah,
a group of infected with his blades,
yeah,
like a fucking lawnmower. But it's like,
yeah.
I don't think you can do that in a helicopter, to be honest. Just in the
No,
movie.
doesn't quite work out. If yeah, I would imagine. Um,
That's what I is my problem with this movie. It was just too Hollywood, where like 28 Days was like a bit more grounded.
20 days
Because
later, yeah.
it was low Days was like lower budget, so it did definitely feel more realistic, but this one definitely felt Hollywood.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this was all I think what I get what they were trying to do. They're trying to do the whole aliens thing where you get the first one, you kind of have like real nice atmosphere, and then you up the ante with the action and the explosions and the just general intensity. And they tried to do that with this film, but you lose the human element. Yeah, you lose the human element that made the first film so successful, and what really I think was the backbone of the third film, I would say. This I would say is the most distinctly inhuman of the third. I don't care about any of the characters of this film, really, not even the kids, as much as I try to. That's not to say I wanted them to die. It's just, you get Jeremy Renner getting set on fire at that one part, which I didn't really care. I mean, I kind of knew it was going to happen anyway, and I think even he knew it was going to happen. I didn't really care for Rose Byrne getting just sort of casually bumped off by Robert Carlyle, who manages to escape the fire zone and make his way all the way back to the subway.
Such a movie convenience. He just keeps showing up.
Yeah, that started to. It was already annoying that his wife did it, and then it was more annoying when he did it, and
it was annoying when he was the one that was in the parking lot that showed up. It was like,
yeah,
you're just doing movie things now. It's like,
pretty much.
What are the odds? And then it's like, what are the odds after the entire city got carpet bombed that he shows up randomly in this goddamn random underground subway station?
Yeah.
And he's the only infected down there with his kids.
Yeah.
Like, you're pushing the convenience of movies too much. Like,
that was too insane. Yeah. And I usually am able to suspend my disbelief pretty far.
Me too.
But this was like really out there. And
that was a push.
And I will give it points. Honestly, for the set, for the location, the subway tunnel with the rotting corpses. This is like all the rotting corpses and skeletons everywhere with the night vision. That was pretty fucking scary. I didn't like how it was constantly quickly edited. Like, where it was just jumping to
by that. It was like confusing as fuck.
Yeah.
And like, when they fell down the escalator, I was like, what are we watching? What's happening? And then the fucking
if that had all been
got lost somehow.
The boy gets separated. If that scene had all been one long take, that would have been so much scarier. The boy gets separated. The girl, she sticks with Rose Byrne, but then Rose Byrne gets attacked by Robert Carlyle and gets her face smashed in. Quarantine style, the movie Quarantine, where the zombie gets his face flattened with the camera lens, and it's just the funniest fucking thing ever. Same thing happens here.
And then I was just annoyed by like
the daughter was standing literally right there,
and then she was, and then like a cut later, she was perfectly safe.
Yeah,
Robert Carlyle was nowhere to be seen. I'm just like,
he bites the boy.
Where are we? What's happening?
He tackles the son, but the daughter ends up blasting him. And actually, I have to chuckle at the soundtrack because I think that the track for that scene is literally titled like whatever the daughter's character name was shoots whatever the dad's name was. Like so, like the title of that track is like a spoiler for the scene. It's like what? Let's just say their name is Cassie and Rodney. Cassie shoots Rodney is like the name of the track or something like that. So. But so she shoots him and kills him and goes to her brother, and her brother runs away, and we assume he's infected, but oh no, wait a minute, he's okay.
He seems he's affected.
Yep. Yeah. And so then they escape, they get on the helicopter, they settle in, and then there's like the big question mark about Paris, because you see the Eiffel Tower and you see the infected run toward it.
Yep.
Will it make it? You don't know. But they have a cure, maybe, or but the potential for a cure. So I guess we're gonna have to try to figure out a way to fill in the blanks there, because I don't know. 28 years later. I mean, I said that the plot of this movie was basically the sound of a toilet flushing, but 28 years later, pretty much treats this movie like toilet paper or toilet waste, because the third movie more or less flushes the entire plot of this film down the toilet.
It literally does. So like,
yeah.
I don't know if you know how much of the background for the making of Years is, but they literally said that it does not. Years didn't happen.
Yeah. Or
like,
weeks didn't happen. Yeah.
Weeks didn't happen. Yeah. Like,
I think. By the way, I got to stop using the word literally because I think I may have misused it. But yeah, go on.
No, they came back and because there is going to be a trilogy, as we know.
Yeah.
And I say trilogy because Weeks has been retconned out. Like it did not happen in this universe.
Okay.
Especially because they did one of the main things is they set a specific time of the infected starve to death after 6 months or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, and then also it wasn't necessarily made by Garland and Boyle. So they came back and they're like, yeah, no, 20 weeks isn't a thing. Just ignore it. Like,
okay. All right. Well, fair enough. I'm not gonna. I don't want to keep shitting on this movie too much, only because like when I have met some people who like this movie more than the first one, and and honestly, like rewatching it, I can actually sort of understand why to a certain degree. Not to say, and I'm not saying it's a better movie, but for the record, I'm not saying that it's a better movie, but I could see how like people could get into the intensity of it and some of the action scenes, because I mean, all things considered, they are pretty well done. So, especially when you compare them to like the shoddy quality of the first film,
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. It's more mainstream friendly.
Okay.
Yeah. Especially now that Jeremy Renner's more famous.
Yeah. I mean, I think for gorehounds, this is probably a dream come true, because this movie it's got some pretty nasty moments in it. I don't know. Overall, I feel generous giving even a 2 out of 5, but that's really the most I can give it. Ultimately, because like really the most I can say about it is that it's well made and well acted, and that's pretty much it. So
I can't agree with well acted. I think the kids sucked ass.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind the kids that much. I've seen worse child acting in horror movies. Yeah,
but we see better in the next movie. Like,
but most definitely, yeah.
And like, I gave it 2 stars as well, just because it was Hollywood level of a zombie movie, but it wasn't anything special.
Yeah,
and there were so many dumb shit that happens. But the first, like literally, bumped it up from like a 1.5, 1 star-ish, 1.5,
Mm,
1.5. Like that's what I would have given it if it wasn't
mm.
for that opening scene. I gave it a
Yeah.
2 stars overall because that
Okay.
opening scene is just so badass.
All right. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'd give this movie a half star more on Halloween. Like if I were in the mood for a little scary movie with some good jump scares. This does have some good jump scares in it, so or it's some jump scares for me anyway. I get scared pretty easily. So, what about you, Zach? What are your thoughts on this movie?
Definitely the worst one.
Okay.
I gave
Yeah.
it a I give it a 3. I think I
Nice.
enjoyed it a little more than the last time I watched it.
Okay. Cool.
Just knowing what was coming, I guess.
Yeah. Nice.
And just rolling with it.
Yeah. All right.
But
Nice.
still not great.
Still not great, you said?
It's not great, but enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah. Turn
Yeah.
your brain off and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it's a movie you just have to make sure you go in with the right expectations. I admired it a lot more this time than I did the first time. I think I was pissed off by it and hated it the first time because I was one of those teenagers who was like, "It's the dumb horror. I've seen 1,000 horror zombie movies that are more hardcore than this bullshit." Blah. But today I can admire and enjoy it a lot more as a shut your brain off type of movie, and it did provide some pretty good stock footage for the third film, I will admit, so which I guess we should probably roll into now because this is the one I'm most interested in talking about, I gotta say. Um
Yeah.
Now I guess okay, so I guess before we start talking about this third film, what were your expectations going into this? Both of your guys, like what were you sort of like? What was your mindset as you started this film, or as you went into this movie?
Like, before the trailer, I was like, this is gonna be dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But then seeing the trailer, I'm like, this could be good.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
For me, I was like, because Garland and Boyle are back. Like, so I was like, okay, they're actually wanting to do this instead of like Weeks. They had nothing little to do with it. They were producers, but like
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, they might want to actually and their repertoire gained after year or days, so they had a little
Yeah.
more reps in. So I was like, okay, this is gonna. I knew it was gonna be better than Weeks, no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
but I was optimistic.
Okay.
I was definitely optimistic. I was like, okay, we'll see how it plays out.
All right. Yeah, I went in with pretty much about as blank a slate as you could, really, other than the soundtrack. I did listen to the score. I didn't look at the titles of the scores, but I did listen to the score by Young Fathers, the hip hop group, which actually they've been around longer than people realize, believe it or not. But I listened to the score of this movie, and I did not watch the trailers. I made the choice, the actual like intentional choice to avoid the trailers this time, only because like I'm so tired of every trailer like spoiling every movie, like, and I was just worried that this was going to do that. So I really worked. I tried really hard to avoid the trailers, and I managed to do it before I saw the film. So now I've watched the trailer since, and now I get why people are responding to the way the movie the way people are responding to them. I understand now that I've
I
seen the
think they were
trailers.
good
So
trailers. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, no, I think the trailers
Yeah.
were good. They didn't spoil the films at all,
Yeah.
really. So other than maybe the opening scene, that's about it. But yeah, so I went into this about as blindly as I possibly could, and when it ended, I mostly felt very, very confused, I have to say. And in some ways, this is the most in some ways this is the most flawed of the three, I guess. And in some ways this is maybe the most cheaply made of the three, but I'd have to say this is definitely my favorite of the three too, for sure.
This is my
yeah.
favorite of the three, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, go on.
I can't say it was the most cheaply made.
Well, I guess I shouldn't say cheap.
Days.
I mean,
you can't say that with Days.
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, some of the movies that we've watched on this show that we've called cheap, this movie in some ways feels cheaper than a lot of those. You know, not all of those, but in some ways cheaper than a lot of those. That's not to say that it's not well made, though. Like but there is. All right. I did look up the way this movie was filmed, and it was shot on the iPhone technology. So
Really?
yeah, so Danny Boyle pulled a Tangerine what's his name, Sean Baker, because Sean Baker, when he made Tangerine, he shot it on I think 2 iPhones.
Yeah.
This was shot on I think 18 iPhones or something like that. There's actually a publicity shot of the film where they're like doing an effects shot in the film. It's like an in-camera effects shot where there's like a track attached to some infected person's torso with like a bunch of different iPhones attached to it. It's a pretty interesting shot, like a publicity shot.
That's cool. I don't know. That's cool. I mean, it is. I mean, I don't want movies to be shot on iPhones necessarily, but if it has the right, purpose for it, but this one wouldn't really necessarily have a purpose to be shot on it.
Well, I was gonna say I'm not, and initially I don't know if I like the idea of more movies being shot on iPhones, but if they're more like this, then I'm into it. Because honestly,
I didn't even notice. So.
Yeah, like, and I thought this movie was gorgeous. Like, I thought the depth of field and everything, like, considering the technology that it was shot on and stuff, like, I thought the picture quality actually looked, honestly, like, even sharper than 4K. Like, and I don't know, like, this is like a different kind of movie than I'm used to seeing, and like from minute one, it's rather unorthodox, I would say. Just in pretty much every approach it takes, like it really did not go in the direction I expected at all. So I guess we should start from the opening scene, which is, I guess, some people might consider to be one of the gnarlier scenes in the movie, but it's also one of the more important scenes in the film. It turns out too. The opening scene where the kids are watching the Teletubbies.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was actually that. Yeah. That would might be one of the more gnarly scenes of this whole series. You just see a bunch of kids get fucking.
They
murdered.
bite it. Yeah. Yeah, that was shocking. And
I did not expect him to go that hard right out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, you'll pretty much instantly know if this movie is for you within the first like moment or first minute.
Oh yeah, I was all for that. I was like, oh, they're going this hard. All right, let's see.
Yeah. I wasn't ready for it, but but at the same time, I like when movies throw me into the deep end like that. So I was, I mean, Teletubbies,
I love it.
Children getting splattered all over the TV. All right, we'll try it.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Because that would happen. Yeah. So why hide it? Like, why not? Like, at least they of course don't show the kids, but they just see, a room full of kids and then just blood splatter everywhere. So like, why not? Like,
yeah, I mean, the point is they show the children cowering in fear, and they show them like actually crying and looking like, oh my God, are we about to die? Like, they show all of that and everything leading up to the moment before they get taken out. And so that's what I mean by like the intensity of it is. This is a much more emotional movie than the other two. and and of course there's like only one kid that ends up surviving, and that's because he just hightails it out of there while everybody's getting chewed up and barfing all over the place. And
they use the barf a lot in this one.
They sure do. Lots of barfing in this one. And he manages to make it to his father's church, and I know it's his father because he called him dad. I do know that priests do get called fathers, but I did specifically notice that he called him dad.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, this is his dad.
And it was just basically told when he was like, he gave him his cross and stuff, and saying, you can, this is, I don't know, rapture,
Yeah.
The little dialogue they had between each other.
Yeah, it was a little hard for me to hear, only because the accents were really thick, and also the AC in my theater was turned up pretty high, so it was kind of like.
God. So in my theater, a girl I was buying a ticket, like I came, only during the previews, but an older lady came out and said, "So I'm in this movie and it's so loud. Could you turn it down a bit?"
Oh, that's annoying.
Like, oh my God. Here we go.
Yeah.
They did turn it they did turn it down, I noticed. And I was like, this is a little I like it when sure, it might be a little jarring if it's this is completely off topic, but
yeah.
It was not as loud as movies generally are if you go to a theater.
Yeah.
They succumbed to this one Karen, I would say. It's like,
yeah.
Come on, lady. You're in a movie theater.
Yeah.
It's gonna be loud. That's the entire kind of point of going to a movie. Not the entire point, but
no, the louder the better. Louder the better.
Yeah.
That's
it's like, and it was during the credit, or not the credits, but the fucking shit. I'm blanking. The trailers.
Oh, the opening trailers.
She even said, "Oh no, not even the opening credits. The trailers of movies to come." It's like, I know it's just during the trailers, but it's so loud.
Oh, gee, I do not like audiences.
I was like, oh God, here we go. And then there were points where it was just like, it's kind of not loud enough.
Yeah. Oh, geez, audiences piss me off. The only time I had a good audience experience well, I shouldn't say recently, but in the last couple of years was when I went to go see Oppenheimer, and it's only because there were so many idiots in the theater dressed up like Barbie and dressed up like Oppenheimer, and they were taking selfies and doing the peace sign and doing the TikTok Oppen Barbie, or what was it,
Barbenheimer,
the Barbenheimer challenge. Yeah. The TikToks, the MySpace, or whatever the hell kids do these days on social media. They were doing the Barbenheimer.
MySpace.
I don't even know. I'm so out of touch. But they're doing the Barbenheimer in the theater for Oppenheimer, and that made me laugh so hard. And they're gasping and reacting every time Robert Downey Jr. gives a monologue. I loved the way the audience reacted to it. And the funniest part about it is, this big intense ending, with this really honestly existentially scary final coda. Cuts to black, credits, directed by Christopher Nolan, and the people behind me, I don't see what the big deal is. That wasn't that interesting.
Of course.
That's kind of how I felt, though.
Yeah. That's the way it could have ended, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Anyway, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, he gets to his church. His dad goes all rapture-palooza on him. He ends up hiding under the floorboard while his father succumbs to the infected. Which that also disturbed me, I have to admit, when he gets swarmed and then they are barfing in his orifices. And then he starts barfing in there. He starts barfing out of his orifices, and there's just orifice barfing all over the place. And
so many little
barfs. Yeah, all over the place, out of the eyeballs, nostrils, all over the place, and little Jimmy's witnessing it all.
Right.
And
They took it, they
yep,
just kept escalating.
yep,
Like in
yep,
28 days, it happened
mm,
once or twice.
yep,
Weeks, it happened like a good
yeah,
more handful of times. And
yeah,
this one, it was just happening all over.
yeah, yeah. It fucks him up so badly that he turns into a fucking Aphex Twin, basically. So, but anyway, so he runs away. He's holding the cross. It's the last thing you see as it fades to black. Cut to 28 years later. Things aren't going so well, obviously. But I will say things are going better than I expected.
Going decent.
Yeah, like because they've managed to keep the infection to the mainland. Um
Yeah, it's is that a I think that's a real aisle too, and
mhm.
like a real thing. That's really
Yeah.
cool. I want to see
Yeah.
that place in real life. I don't
I do, yeah, it's a gorgeous location. And they even use like a particular tree, that tree that they use in that gorgeous silhouette shot
know.
that I just can't stop admiring.
Oh yeah.
Um yeah, I mean this movie makes very effective use of its location. And so 28 years later, basically it's kind of become almost like a post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear type of scenario type of thing, where if you like see any of those like medieval type of movies or something like Threads or something, you kind of have a good idea. Civilization is more or less starting to stabilize, although obviously
It's
it's
the thing
not.
they did do a bunch of like periodic pieces too of medieval people like just like
Mhm.
not fighting off zombies, but
Right.
uh medieval fortifications fighting off
Yeah.
hackers and all that kind of stuff. There's during like I think opening credits and stuff like that. And yeah.
Yeah, the movie makes actually pretty interesting use of montage because they pretty much they show I think different shots of like I think it was Henry V. I didn't see all of Henry V, so I can't say for sure, but I think they used footage of that, maybe Alexander Nevsky, but just different sort of footage of people using arrows in combat. Basically, they're trying to establish the concept that firearms really don't have a place in society anymore. Now it's more about crossbows and arrows, and
Yeah. Run out of bullets.
yeah,
Can't make more without a society.
yep, yep, and so yeah, it's more or less a medieval society, but it's also a rather like a traditional based one as well. Um,
And
and so
they did have a like an opening crawl too that
mhm,
says that it is just centrally located to the
the
UK.
British Isles, yeah.
Like everywhere else is safe.
Yeah, yeah. Which that's the first thing that I didn't expect watching this movie, because I was under the impression after the whole Eiffel Tower Paris
That's
shot,
no, that's the
the world
thing
was
is
doomed.
no, that's the thing is that again, like it weeks was retconned out. It did
Mhm.
not happen.
Yeah, yeah. That's the first thing. That's the first
Yeah,
thing that I was struck by. Yeah. What was that?
I didn't catch that until like the end because when the dude showed up with the iPhone, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I was following the because I loved Days and stuff, and like when I heard they were making this, there's just like a lot of production stuff coming out, and they said mm, people were like confused because like how is 28 years even possible if the zombies die of starvation 6 months later? And like Garland and Boyle said, we're not, no, 28 weeks didn't happen. It's not a part of this. And like we'll get to it. They are making another.
Oh yeah.
They are making another. They planned
Mhm.
another. They wrote
Yep.
another. They filmed
Mhm.
them, I think, close-ish together, or they're gonna film whatever the next one is soon.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the actual trilogy would be 28 days and then 28 years and then whatever the next one is called next.
Okay.
So literally 28 weeks didn't happen in this universe.
Okay.
So it's like,
All right. Well, during the montage at the beginning, they showed a couple of different shots from 28 Weeks, though. Like, so I don't want to write off 28 Weeks completely, only because, like,
the creators did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, the creators did, but I do think that that 28 Weeks later, you can imagine you can almost what is it they do with Star Wars? You know, where you have all the Star Wars literature that's now no longer considered canon, but are like now considered Star Wars extended universe. Maybe you could imagine there's like a little bit of an extended universe somewhere, and like 28 Weeks later.
Yeah.
I mean, I did notice that there was a movie called 28 Months After.
I saw a couple of, like, I think they're just
They're probably
like
terrible.
Just
mockbusters.
Yeah. Just random people making something.
Asylum.
Yeah.
I'm gonna watch 28 Months Later or 28 Months After, just for fun. I'll tell you how it is. But no, just kidding. No. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, there's also like this whole thing where, okay, so the first thing I didn't expect was that they managed to keep it contained to the British Isles. The second thing I didn't expect was that, and I didn't even think about this, was during the time of the first quarantine, or during the time of the first outbreak, or I guess the only outbreak, really, I should say, during the time of the initial outbreak, the people that would have been kids during that, if they had survived, would be old enough to have their own kids by now. So that's what this movie is actually about, is about the generation that exists after the epidemic, so these kids don't know what the world was like before the rage
too.
infection.
Like,
I do too.
What's that? It's a phone. Like, what's a phone?
Oh, I loved that scene. There were so many scenes I loved.
That was awesome. And like, so I did know, because again, I watched I read things during pre-production, so I knew that's how this was gonna go. So I knew that it was generally quarantined to the British Isles, and that it didn't really spread further than that.
Right. Which is fine.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I did like that they were like, oh yeah, that they quarantined, like the entire world quarantined the British Isles. But I also didn't expect in general that they didn't try to really help. It feels like if they had 28 years, like if they had 28 years, I kind of think they could help completely eradicate it in 28 years with just straight up military force. Because
well,
but who knows?
I guess in its own way, its own weird sort of way,
this film, let it happen over there.
This third film, is in its own way consistent with the other two, in the sense that it does have the same exact problem that the other two films have, it in that the military is useless and don't have a plan.
Yeah.
And that's very much true here, I would say.
Their only plan was to just like boat around, like
and make sure nobody leaves,
and make sure no one leaves.
Yeah,
but it's just like
maybe the military's
really?
So maybe the military's plan is to see what happens.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be that far-fetched, to be honest. Just like, let's see how this goes.
Right, exactly.
Let's just let these fuckers evolve and starve.
Yeah, it seems kind of cruel, honestly. Kind of seems like a pitiful joke, especially when PewDiePie shows up.
Yeah,
I mean, is that what they were going for with that character? By the way, I know we're kind of jumping the gun a little. We'll get to that, but like, is that what they were going for with him?
It felt like it. Now that I mean, I didn't think of it now, but once you mention it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, there were a number of things in this movie that I had to sort of start questioning a little bit, but so those were the two things I didn't expect, and then the third thing I didn't expect about this movie was The main character, the main actor, actually, Alfie Williams. I knew that the film did have like a kid as one of the main characters.
Yeah.
I didn't expect him to not only be the main character, but to basically carry the whole movie. Actually,
Oh, me too. I thought it was
Yeah.
gonna be the dad.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
through the trailers and everything. I thought, but like, and also like when it was made clear that it wasn't gonna be him, like when the kid took the mom out.
yeah.
Oh God, this is gonna suck because we're following
Mm.
a kid, but it turned out real well. Like,
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah,
like that kid was a good actor. Like,
he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. And I don't know, like how, like where, because I watched, what was that show? Or it was on Netflix. It was like it was really it was by the same folks that did Boiling Point, that series that you were really into. Adolescence. That the kid on
oh,
that.
they did that. I know that.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
So
I've wanted to see that
yeah.
that show.
I think he's the same age as that kid, but I don't know what's going on. But somehow, like, there's all these great little English actors who are getting these great roles now.
Yeah,
And
the English kids are good at acting. I don't know what's
yeah,
going on over there.
I don't know, but I'm all for it, honestly. Because yeah, like if I mean, I'm okay with this kid being the main character in the second film too. If that ends up being the case, like if it ends up kind of following his journey, then
Yeah.
go for it. So, but yeah, the film, it basically it mostly just follows him and him kind of going through different sort of rites of passage in this waste, like kind of a medieval late wasteland. And that's kind of why I say it's a really sort of slow, unconventional type of movie, because there's not a whole lot of story.
Yeah.
The first half of the film is pretty much following him and his father, where they sort of they exit their community because
I wouldn't even
it's
say
part
the
of their
first
tradition.
half. It's like the
right?
first third, maybe.
Okay, yeah, that probably is more accurate. Like the first, I'd say 30 to 40 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
Dad's gone pretty actually early, to be
Yeah.
honest.
yeah, he does. He's played by the same actor from Kick-Ass.
And Taylor Johnson.
Yeah. There you go. I wasn't remembering his name, but yeah. So it pretty much follows him and his kid as they exit their community, which the kid's actually too young to be doing this. From what I understand, they usually wait until after they're out of adolescence to go out into the field and be sort of out in the community, which from what I understand they mostly do to scavenge, but also because it is a tradition too, to actually bring people who come of age out of the community and into the outside world to
Yeah,
hunt.
that
So,
first one they said was literally just for him to get a couple kills, just
yeah.
to get his feet wet.
Yes.
Or toes wet? Feet, what's the term? Toes, feet wet?
Yeah. I mean, same thing.
It was basically it
Yeah.
wasn't like an actual like mission, just it was him to get some reps in.
Yes. And actually truthfully it doesn't go very well. Although it's not that it goes badly necessarily. It's just that it's clear that the kid isn't quite ready, I mean, he does manage to hit at least a couple of them. He doesn't kill any of them, I don't think, but
He kills the bloater, or I don't know what they call him in this.
Like Low and Slow or something.
The dude who looks like the Harkonian from Dune, who's crawling on the ground. That was disgusting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when he's like eating the worms and maggots or whatever, like oh. Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like ready to barf. I'm like,
yeah,
oh,
so now we've established there are different types. Like in Last of Us, there's there's bloaters, there's runners, there's alphas.
yeah, exactly. Basically, yet another thing I didn't expect from this movie: the infected are kind of building their own civilization. It looks like. Which, I guess in a weird sort of roundabout way, they almost sort of could have maybe implied the possibility of in the second film if they had explored that idea of the infected potentially being able to evolve, or the infection itself being able to evolve. If they had maybe explored that idea a little bit more in the second film, maybe we could have a through line here, but I don't think there's enough of one there. I'm really, really desperate to find a thread with the second film. I really am, because I'm frustrated. I'm really frustrated that the second film exists. You know,
you don't
as
have
much
to.
as yeah.
Because they literally said it doesn't exist.
You're right. I just gotta remind myself. Yeah. All right. So they're out in the wilderness. They do encounter one of those the caterpillar dudes. And oh, I almost forgot. There's that part where they go to that hideout and they find the guy hanging upside down with the name Jimmy carved into his stomach. So it's like, wait a minute here.
Oh, was that? I just saw
Yeah.
two M's. I didn't see the other.
It's the full. It was the name Jimmy. Actually, the reason I want to watch this movie again. Two reasons I want to watch this movie again. One, so I can better understand the dialogue, because I really didn't understand like half of what the characters were saying, because the AC was so loud in the theater. And two, because I wanted to see if there was any more like things that were hinting at what happened at the end here, which
and three, so you could find that thread to the second movie.
Oh yeah, to find the missing thread. That too. Yeah, that's the third reason too. Yeah. Oh man, and I think the whole internet knows how this third movie ends by now, and they know how insane the ending is, but truthfully, like I do think that there's something more going on that we're not kind of seeing. But it's possible that the movie is just, I mean, this whole film is so chaotic in its editing style. And it has a lot of weird little experimental film techniques that happen. Like there's like this weird thing that the film does again and again, where like whenever an infected gets shot with an arrow, like it's sort of the camera kind of spins on its head.
Oh yeah,
like
that was weird. That was
yeah. It did
like
it like almost every time.
It reminded me of like Resident Evil, like the first Resident Evil. It's like that kind of stylistic slow-mo kind of spin around.
Yeah.
With blood splattering out. It was like, Argh!
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Resident Evil as well. It was like a more realistic kind of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
And but while they're in this hideout with this guy who's been hung upside down and has a bag over his head, basically his father, Aaron Taylor Johnson, determines this is probably that they like purposefully like tortured and then infected, like left to get infected. And so then that's around the time that they look out the window and the guy actually wakes up first of all. Yeah. And I think he even tries to get the boy, what's his name, Spike, I think it is. They try to get him to shoot the guy.
And he couldn't.
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Even though he's just chilling there, and they knew he wasn't. I know that's a weird.
He's just squeamish, really. I think is what it comes down to, But then there's this whole thing though that happens where there's like a giant, like a giant infected guy. So this is when they establish the whole concept of alphas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in these crowds of infected people, which they're all naked, by the way, because all of their clothes have deteriorated over a couple of decades, which does make sense. And actually, truthfully, I stopped noticing after the first 5 minutes. I know a lot of people on the internet are going crazy about all the giant dicks.
The internet did.
Yeah, no, everybody's going crazy about all the giant dicks rubbing all over the screen and stuff. But honestly, I kind of just, I stopped noticing after the first 5 minutes.
I didn't even notice until like partway through, and then I was just like, Oh wait, oh, they're all naked. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. You see tits and dicks, left and right.
Right.
You see more boobs in this movie than. Well, no, I'm not gonna say more boobs than Showgirls, but almost more, almost.
And you see more dong than days, which is
Yeah,
really you only see one in days, but
that's true. But still, I mean, I'd say they quadruple the amount of dongs you see in this one for sure. Tenfold. Um, but let's see. Oh yeah, okay. So there's these alpha guys who show up who are big hulking giants that are like 8 or 9 feet tall, to have giant dicks, and are just roided out, and they roar these deep, gravelly, roars, and they're scary as fuck. And pretty much like they like to crack people's heads off and rip their spines out and use them as weapons. They only do it a couple times in this movie, but still, like it's fucking nasty. And the first time I saw that, I thought I was going to throw up. I don't usually get sick over gore effects, but I don't know, something about this movie, like that moment and the part where that guy's eating the worms, it's just like, and then also the ending as well. Like there were some moments in this movie that definitely made me nauseous, and I don't even know why. But
Yeah, and then like the night vision,
oh,
that was a little creepy.
that was terrifying. Yeah, yeah, when they eat the deer. Yeah, this movie got me good at a number of different points. Like there were definitely some parts where I was like, fuck this movie.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, they managed to blast at least. I mean, the dad obviously kills, pretty much most of them, or well, not most of them, but he kills a decent amount as they're trying to get away. But they end up pretty much hanging out in the hideout until nightfall, and they wait until the actual path to the mainland is clear enough that they can actually chart their way across it. Because they do. Yeah.
Well, they were in the house that saw that fire though.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, the fire.
Mm-hmm. That was incredible. Yep. And that sort of because the father, of course, like immediately kind of writes off. He kind of said, like, he indicates that they're when they first saw the dead body with the word Jimmy carved into it, the dad says that there's people out in the wastelands that are up to no good. He does say that. I do remember him saying that. And then he sees the bodies being burned and all the bodies being lined up in a very peculiarly synchronized looking rows.
This was in the flashback though. He was telling the kid was it
the dad talks about seeing the bodies, right? Or
was
that
it
was
the
later.
other dude? That was
that's it. The son sees them, and then the dad says it, right?
I don't. What? No, I think it was the other guy that was he. The kid when they got back, the kid asked that older guy.
Oh,
it's like so we saw a fire, and he's like, oh yeah, I didn't even think he would be alive. Yeah, we checked him out, and he was lining up these bodies, and he gave us a friendly wave, but we were freaked out and ran away.
Yeah. No, like. So his dad already establishes in him the idea that he shouldn't go out and trust strangers, and this guy from the community tells him, "Don't trust the doctor. The doctor's crazy. The guy who knows the medicine is not the person to trust."
But all he hears is he's a doctor. So
well, that's the thing, is that their mom, Jodie Comer, she's fucked up. Like she's not doing well. Like even at the beginning of the movie, she's obviously not doing well.
Yeah, and I from the start, I was like, oh, she's probably has brain cancer because she's like losing it. She's lucid and losing it, and then like
And I felt pretty sorry. I felt really sorry for the mother in the second movie when she gets eaten by Robert Carlyle and gets her face split open. Not only did she die a horrible death, but she dies not getting to see her kids again, which of course makes sense because she practically almost attacks them the first time she sees them. So, but the mom in this movie I felt even more sorry for, because there's a moment that happens later on in the film, and I can't remember if it happened after a dream sequence or during one of their weird montages that it had, where it kind of hints at the fact that like she's had to kind of be a survival. She's had to sort of live with a survival type of mindset her whole life. Like she basically had to grow up with a killer instinct, and so like, oh, I remember. So okay, well, all right, we'll talk about that. I'll talk about that when we get to it. But basically, they have to escape to the mainland. They wait till the coast is clear to make a beeline to the mainland. There's this gorgeous shot where the moon is kind of in the sky, and there's like stars. Or no, the moon is going down, but the sky is like full of stars, and there's the Alpha is like hightailing it after them while they're trying to get back to their community. But they do manage to make it.
Yeah, I will just to set up just quickly is the mainland.
Yeah.
Is separated by just this little like I think it's real, right?
Yeah, it's a real strip.
Like there's just a strip of land. That's so cool that this exists in real life too. It's just, that it's like a perfect zombie hideout or zombie fortification spot. It's just just a strip of land that the Isle of Dogs is actually the name of the isle. So, hey,
that's hilarious.
Hey, Wes Anderson, but like,
we hear you.
The Isle of Dogs, and then just like a straight strip of land that connects to like the UK Isles or the UK island, and it's so cool, and it's straight up a good spot to hold down the fort against a zombie apocalypse.
It was, and that whole scene, like to when they're running away, is so beautifully lit, like that I almost forgot about. Cool. I almost forgot that I was shitting myself out of fear. This movie, basically, the scariest scenes in the movie for me were all the scenes with the alphas, but
yeah, they're scary.
They really are, and this was one of them. And when they do get to it, the people in the community are already celebrating, actually, and they do make their way in after they hit the one alpha with the arrow, and they're partying, and the Aaron Taylor Johnson guy, he's building up his son, like he got one of them, and his son, of course, has had a few too many drinks and is letting it out. But while he's doing that, he unfortunately spots his father being unfaithful, which sets him off pretty bad, I'd say. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. And he's pretty desperate at that point because his mom is getting worse and worse, and she's like fucked up, barfing and all that stuff, and
that's eventually the thing, is like that's the biggest mistake, that like they should have told him that, because I think they know. Like I think like the mom knows she has cancer. Like she basically says that's kind of what I thought, and I'm assuming that's what the dad thought.
Yeah,
but they kept giving the kid hope that, oh no, she's just sick. She's okay. She's just sick. Like, well, should have just told him like, this is what's happening, like, and that would have. Yeah. I mean, I guess that wouldn't make that would have stopped the movie in its tracks. But like,
I mean, I guess
realistically, like, shit.
Well,
like,
putting yourself in the mindset of somebody who lives in a medieval landscape. I mean, I'm sure a number of people have gotten sick in a number of different ways and have succumbed to various things that probably were cancer that people didn't realize were cancer. I mean, cancer has existed for centuries. It's not just a new thing in the modern age. It is something that probably existed in medieval times too. But back then, people probably didn't know it was cancer, or they referred to it as the consumption or something like that, or it was identified as something other than. And so I guess in that sense, maybe just the lack of any clear medical expertise in the village
But the
and
thing is,
and the fact that a lot of the people in the village are on the younger side, not the elders so much, but the younger people who were
right.
probably kids during the first outbreak,
But I
or
think,
during the initial outbreak.
I mean, the mom knew. She knew
Yeah.
that it was probably cancer. The dad probably knew because it wasn't like
Maybe.
they weren't like they were older than 28 years. They knew that it was cancer probably. There's definitely a few olders. They should have
Yeah.
just told the kid like, yeah,
Yeah.
she might have a disease or a
Yeah.
thing that isn't curable. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
any
she-
doctors
Yeah.
any doctors in the modern era before the outbreak, it wasn't curable even then
Yeah.
with the highest technology that
Yeah.
we could afford. So
Yeah. I mean, I know what cancer looks like. So I think, so my first thought was cancer.
yeah.
I think I'm willing to give audiences and the filmmakers a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this case, only because they do establish that she has blackouts, and there's a moment where she kills. I all right. Well, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but after, so okay, real quick. Alfie, he's so pissed off at his father for being unfaithful that he decides, fuck it. He sets fire to their supply crates, which probably isn't a good idea, but they do manage to catch the fire, so I guess that's good. But while they're doing that, he escapes with his mom to go to the doctor that the elder called crazy because in Spike's basic thought process is, well, at least it's somebody who might know something about medicine at the very least, even if he ends up killing us both. Like, better than nothing.
Yeah, this is the point in the movie where I was like, oh no, here we go.
Yeah, I mean this is where, because I do understand what kids are like at that age, and this is actually probably why he shouldn't have been taken out of the community in the first place, because this is more than likely the type of thing that would have been encouraged by doing that. So really, I actually do kind of feel like the father made an error in judgment to begin with. And so, although I will admit it is kind of a bummer that he's not really in the second half of the film, because I would have liked to have seen him have some sort of redemption arc. Only because,
I did honestly think through partway throughout he was just going to show up and save him like when they were in that temple or whatever, when the bloater was coming. I thought that it was going to be him that was the one that saved him with that, but no, it was
well,
I was honestly pleasantly surprised it wasn't. It was the mom that did it. It was really cool.
It was cool, and that brings me to kind of the whole thing that I was going to bring up is so she has an inherent survival trait. That wasn't that she developed overnight. That's not something that she developed overnight or instinctually. That was something that came with experience. But I would be willing to bet that audiences who maybe don't know what cancer looks like might suspect that, hey, if the infected are able to kind of establish their own civilization, then maybe traces of the infected can establish itself within the realm of the non-infected without people realizing it. And maybe they were trying to do something with that, or maybe they were trying to build up the theme that maybe it could be airborne, even though I know that they already kind of knocked out that theory in the first film, I think, even. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to be forgiving because I like the movie so much. But like, that is something that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense ultimately as to why they didn't really want to, like, why they were just kind of letting her die, why they were just letting her rot. Other than,
I just think that's what I just come back to. Like, I think most of the older people knew it was probably cancer because she was having nosebleeds and stuff. They probably understood that, like, she had a maybe not cancer, but a terminal illness at the very least, and there were no doctors. There's nothing they could do besides just.
I think they thought he was man enough to go kill, but not to handle the news of his mom.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's fucked up because, like, really, at the end of the day, what matters is that the boy doesn't know that his mama has cancer, and so when he finds out, that's what makes it doubly devastating.
Yeah, and the
Um,
thing is, he doesn't even know. That's what is I think extremely important is that he doesn't really understand what cancer is
mhm.
because he was born way after, and is like, there's like you have to have a cure, right? There's something, and there's like, no, even before the outbreak, even with the highest technology we had in our peak,
Yeah,
there was no cure. There's nothing anyone could do in the highest technology, the highest medical sciences we had back then. We
yeah,
could not cure cancer. And
yeah,
that was like hard to tell a kid that didn't really understand the full world before the outbreak. It's like sorry, buddy.
well,
Like
yeah,
we
no,
couldn't cure her even if in a perfect, not a perfect world, but in the world before.
yeah, well,
Dead anyway. Like sorry.
it was yeah. I mean, I didn't expect the movie to go in that direction, and that was it was actually pretty tough. Um, and it's actually probably one of the more vivid sort of like examples of like what the experience of cancer actually kind of is like in a way, like that I've seen in a movie lately. And again, it's just so many weird little things that this movie is trying that no movies are doing these days. you know, um, just I don't know. I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the amount of like emotional depth that's going on here. Um, because yeah, like when the mom wakes up and she has like no memory of anything going on throughout the night or whatever, like it's I mean that she genuinely is confused by that, so it does indicate that she's experiencing blackouts, but she also does have that inherent survival trait that she had to grow up with because she grew up during the epidemic. She was an epidemic baby. So anyway, and it's around this time that the military folks end up their boat ends up, what was it, capsizing or what? I'm not exactly sure what happened there.
Yeah, they said
um
they hit rocks and some
yeah,
shit.
the movie
Like
didn't do a good job of really showing exactly, or maybe it did and I just there was too much else going on that I
not
just
really, kind of. It
missed
was
it.
really like just like flashes and like
Yeah,
they just crash landed basically.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And that's the thing, is that this movie has such a weird editing style that it's hard to tell whether these people are like close to these folks or if it's far away or if it even happened in the same day, because like that the movie does that too, is it'll sometimes jump back to like things that happened before things that are happening now. Like I don't know, it's all over the place. I dig it, but it's all over the place.
Hmm.
And so yeah, the military folks they encounter, they do manage to take out a number of the infected, but then eventually they encounter an alpha, and pretty much all but one
Try
of
to
them.
go into a tunnel.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't work.
Don't do it.
It just doesn't work, no matter what you try to do. Just especially in a movie with if you realize that you're in a movie with infected people, just stay away from the fucking tunnels.
You're right.
um so
Death
then
trap.
PewDiePie escapes, and
PewDiePie.
yeah, and he managed to meet up with the heroes. Well, the hero, I should, well, the hero and his mom, and they have kind of a cute moment where they sort of have a bit of like a generational dissonance there.
I did
Where
like that
yeah,
scene in the gas station too, where you could see like the gas above, and
yes, the what is it, the I don't remember what they call it.
it was just like I don't know,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was just some type of gas leak where they were
right.
like
But it had
they
been in
ran
there
in,
for a couple years. Yeah,
yeah, and they ran away from
yeah,
infected, and the guy just kind of shot, and then just the entire place exploded.
That was an amazing scene when they were in the gas station.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That made me think of the scene in Jurassic Park where they shut the power out. Oh, that was one of the best looking scenes in the movie. Damn. When they're in that and then it blows up. Loved it. Holy crap. That's another reason why I want to see this movie again, is just to rewatch those scenes, because I just was in love with I was so in love with the way it looked that I stopped paying attention to what was happening, and then something blew up, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot this is a movie that I have to. There's a moment where he shows Alfie a picture of his girlfriend, and he asks what's wrong with her face.
That was hilarious. Yeah. She had just lip fillers, and was
and he says something about
nothing.
Yeah, he's like, one of the girls in my village, her face gets that way when she eats shellfish or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was good.
So now we come to a really fucked up scene in the movie, which was also kind of a frustrating scene. Actually, it was probably the scene that frustrated me the most, honestly. But it was an important scene overall. The scene where the zombie gives birth.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing I will quickly say before you say, because I know what you're about to say, but I do want to give this movie all the kudos in the world for finally being a movie that has a character that says the phrase "zombie baby."
I wasn't gonna say anything like that.
Oh well. Anyway, go on.
I was just gonna say we did, I think, randomly see at least one other pregnant zombie.
I think we did, yeah, but I
just randomly, it didn't during something. There was just way before just another pregnant zombie.
Yeah, there was a bunch of montages, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was something like that in the midst of one of them.
Yeah, it caught my eye, and I was like, I wonder what and I was just like, I wonder what does happen. Do they just stay pregnant forever? Yeah. I guess not. I guess not.
No, because the mom, maybe she's having another blackout. Maybe she used to be a midwife at one point. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. For whatever reason, she goes into this bus while this infected bitch is shrieking at the top of her lungs and about to go. It's basically going into labor. And she goes over to the infected person and holds their hands. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? And it gives birth. And it's like, oh my God. And then PewDiePie calls it a zombie baby, which is funny because actually it turns out to not be a zombie.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I didn't expect.
Yeah. You wonder. I don't know.
Yeah. And he blasts the mom, which annoyed the shit out of me because I feel like one of them would have gotten infected blood on them. I mean, maybe they were covering their eyes or their orifices or something. It's possible. I mean, the characters in the second movie got covered in blood and they managed to survive. So who knows? Maybe it's okay. I guess it doesn't matter.
But one drop to the eye.
One drop to the eye from the first one.
I do remember. I forget which movie it was in, but there was one where they got blasted in the face and they said, "Don't blink, don't blink," and then they covered their face
I think that was in this one.
Yeah, it was in this one.
Okay, yeah.
It might have been this scene too.
Oh yeah, maybe it was. Okay, so then there you go. So in hindsight,
they did a little bit of covering up, don't hold on, don't move, and they washed off their face. Yeah, so
you might be right, honestly. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I think I'm just confused. Again, it's because the editing is. Do you guys know what I mean? This movie isn't edited the same way a lot of other movies are edited. There's a lot of shots of close-ups, but there's no establishing shots.
It seemed like they were trying to go for the early 2000s style, but not as much.
Yeah, maybe. And it actually, I thought it worked for the opening scene because you had Teletubbies on the playground and it instantly made you feel like you were in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So, God, that Teletubbies theme is so creepy to me now. Anyway, they don't even have time to really make any smart decisions after after the baby's been born, because an alpha shows up almost immediately, and it rips the Swedish dude's head clean off, spinal cord and everything, and carries it around the rest of the movie. You even get lots of juicy, nasty close-ups of it too, along with close-ups of his dick. Kind of often they're kind of in the same shot a lot
Big
of the
old
time.
hog.
Like, what the hell? Yeah,
Giant ass hog on him.
yeah. It's crazy. It's like flopping back and forth while he's chasing after them through the train cart. And actually, I think I don't know, maybe I'm reading too deep into this, but are we meant to like sort of assume that alpha was like the father of this baby, or am I?
No, that was my guess.
Okay. Regardless, yeah,
I think that was my guess, because it felt like he was purposely hunting them down to get his baby back.
yeah, maybe. I mean, it wasn't made very clear. I think I can assume that that's what they were going with. You know, there's a lot of assumptions I can make with this film, and I think that that's a pretty easy, clear one. And luckily, Ray Fiennes shows up around this time and manages to save them without killing the alpha. He doesn't seem to want to kill any of the infected.
He even has a name for that specific, like Willard or William?
Samson.
Yeah.
And
biblical.
Yeah, it is a biblical name. And actually, this is when the movie goes in a surprisingly spiritual direction that I actually
loved this bit, like this whole
I did too. I loved it.
It was just like so cool. I don't know.
It was my favorite part of the movie. It didn't really make any sense to me, to be honest, why he wanted to keep it alive. Yeah.
Or how he was still alive in just an open field.
Yeah, like this movie gets so fucking trippy at this part that I just didn't even know what I was watching anymore. And also, this is when I start. It did start to kind of occur to me around this part too. Like, wait a minute, this movie is very strangely paced. This is taking a lot longer than it should. Is this getting close to the end? Is this the first in a trilogy? What the fuck's going on? You know, like I did start kind of wondering what was going on with this. I've never seen a movie this weirdly structured. The only thing I can think of is like, and I know this is a really strange example, but you know how Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain kind of did away with everything that was good about the first three movies, but still somehow managed to be kind of more about the characters in its own weird way? Like, I know it's a weird example, but like, that's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Like, this was like that kind of sequel where they infected, in a weird way, kind of took a back seat to much deeper themes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And actually,
for the whole movie, they weren't much present.
Yeah. Like with the first movie, you could argue that there was some degree of antagonism as far as like the infected, or even like the Christopher Eccleston character. With the second movie, Robert Carlyle and the martial law, Americanized military, taking out people left and right. But with this movie, there really isn't any clear antagonist throughout, I'd say 98% of it. It's not until we get to the last 2 minutes that suddenly the idea of a villain is starting to kind of, like, the building blocks of a villain, I would at the very least say, start to get laid down. Mm-hmm. But with this section, though, you have Ray Fiennes, who wants to keep the infected alive for some reason, but he's also talking about this idea of like memento mori, the remembrance of death, the remembrance of the people who've passed, you know, and the inheriting of their best traits.
I thought that was great.
It was.
It's like remembering death and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just thought it was good.
It was beautiful. And it was also, it's an idea that means a lot to me too, because, you know, I mean, when I watch movies like Coco and things like that explore the idea of like giving remembrance to loved ones who've passed and stuff like that. I mean, I can't help but think of my own family members who've passed. And my brother who died just a few years ago from suicide. Like I often feel like a lot of his best qualities I try to take with me. And so at this part of the movie, when Ray finds diagnoses his mom and breaks the news that she's dying of cancer, they immediately have to sedate him because he can't comprehend the fact that he's about to lose his mother. But they also give him the baby as well to sort of like kind of nurture almost while he's being sedated, just kind of like, because really I've seen what it looks like to have people die of cancer. Like I've seen what it looks like to die of cancer, and it really is awful. And I could see how like a lot of people would consider it to be preferable to just end it early and preemptively before you suffer too much,
Especially
and so
in this scenario, like they don't have any type of like no chemo. They can't really prolong their life. They have no type of anything that would help them live more peacefully, like no drugs that would give them relief. No
yeah.
nothing. She said she was in constant pain.
Right.
So it's like she's in constant pain and she will die
Yeah.
soon. So
Yeah.
it's just like we're here, we're in this memorial of death and remembrance of death. So it's like, all right, we made it here. We had this journey. I think this is where where I should just clock out and
yeah. I mean, it's perfect. And yes, I can see how like maybe some people could see it as being a little bit too morbid, I suppose. But I feel like I don't know, in a world like this where you really are only still rebuilding things and still in the early process of rebuilding things. I mean, if death is all around you and stuff, and there's no other way to take comfort in it, I just think it's really cool that the person who's actually doing that and is sort of expressing these spiritual thoughts is a doctor,
yeah.
Like, how often do you see that in a movie? I mean, that's incredible. And the emotions felt real. And man, did I cry when he's putting the skull on top of the tower there. Like,
Right.
Holy shit.
Find the perfect place for her.
Yeah. Ray Fiennes, I mean, I'd say Alfie Williams gives the best performance, but Ray Fiennes is a very close second. And I'm not even that big a fan of Ray Fiennes either, but what he does in this movie, like the way he manages to be like a dark presence without being like an overwhelmingly sort of like cruel or confrontational one. Like there's just something so cool about that, because again, you don't see characters like that in movies like this, in apocalyptic stories. Like, yeah. So yeah, by that point, basically, Alfie, he moves on. He brings the baby back to the village, and that's kind of when you have that big emotional scene where Aaron Taylor Johnson, the dad, runs out into the water with the kind of implication that he's going to maybe try to find to try and find Spike there. And then the film jumps ahead 28 days later, and it's pretty much established by this point that that Spike has adapted, and he's grown and evolved quite a bit physically as a fighter. He's become a man, or he's becoming a man more or less. And then we get what's, I guess, turns out to be a pretty goddamn controversial ending, I'd say.
It's wacky.
Yeah.
It's the hardest tonal shift I've ever seen in a movie.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I was like, what the huh?
It's so nuts. Yeah. It's so nuts that I'm almost tempted to not even talk about it, but we really probably should.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah. How do we even how do you even say, like, okay, so he's hanging out at the stream and he takes out a couple of them, and then the character from the first film, or from the beginning of the film, the kid who we last saw running away from a church, he unexpectedly shows up
with
basically.
a group of
Tracksuit wearing Teletubby ninjas.
I think it's supposed to, like, the hooligans, like that group of football, foot, soccer in America, football
Okay.
gangsters. Because I think that's what they were going for,
Okay.
aesthetically.
Right.
Like those hooligan, like, people that fuck shit up during soccer matches.
Okay.
Or Power Rangers.
Or Power
Yeah, or Power Rangers.
That's true, yeah.
Yep. And actually,
he did have a Power Ranger figure at the beginning.
I was gonna say, was it Jimmy that had the Power Ranger figure, or was it?
It was Spike.
Okay, that's interesting though, because the way they moved, the flips and the parkour and the Taibo or whatever they were doing there, like it reminded me of the Power Rangers.
Yeah.
The way it was shot, almost like the Power Rangers, almost.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so they were wearing like these track suits.
Different colored tracksuits.
Yeah, different colored tracksuits. And they're all wearing these stupid looking blonde wigs that look ridiculous.
I think that's like the style of, that's why.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. There was something actually I read. Okay, this is fucked up. All right, so there was this English, I guess he was a public, I guess you could call him sort of he was involved very heavily both in like British pop culture and in their politics, and he was knighted by the Queen. He was involved in their honor system. He had a talk show. He had all these accolades, and then when he died, his name was Jimmy Savile, and when he died, it was discovered that he was a sexually sadistic psychopath who not only assaulted men, women, and children in like the thousands, but he bragged about it on national television because he was always making jokes about how, like, oh, the girls at the girls' school better stay away from me and all this shit. Like, so he was actually making jokes about being like this deranged sexual predator in public. And then after he died, a giant scandal emerged, and it turned out that he actually he was a fucking crazy sexual psychopath and abused thousands of people. But what's more fucked up about this is that his crimes were discovered, I think, in like the mid 2010s. The initial outbreak happened in the early 2000s. So this takes place in a world where Jimmy Savile's crimes were actually never discovered. So this kid is actually being influenced by this guy, I'd say, because he's dressed like him, because he used to dress just like that guy. So,
well, fuck.
Yeah. So like this, so it's like really fucking dark, this ending, its implications,
Shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But Zach, I think you said it best in your Letterboxd review. You said that the movie kind of turns into an Oliver Tree music video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate that too.
That or Aphex Twin.
Yeah, one of those. It's like a weird combination of the two, because he shows up and he starts complimenting Spike, and he's like, "Hey, you're doing a good job, but looks like you're getting a little overwhelmed." So I don't remember what he said. He kind of sounds a little bit like the guy from Clockwork Orange a little bit. He's like, why don't we take over for you or whatever? Let's go fucking early. And then it's like a heavy metal version of the Teletubbies that plays on the soundtrack while they're all parkouring the shit out of these zombies and chopping them up and cutting their heads off and stringing them upside down. And they're going like, so do you ever see the movie John Carpenter Vampire where James Woods, where they're like tying the vampires up and throwing them out into the daylight? It's like that times 1,000, And so then he stares at the kid and is like, "Yeah, my name's Jimmy. Let's be friends." And then they shake hands.
And they show the cross
Yeah.
that he got from his dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that kid. All right.
Mhm. And then the movie ends, and the people in my audience were fucking laughing their ass off.
Yeah, in my audience, people are just
Yeah.
like, "What? What?
Yeah.
What just happened?"
Yeah, I mean, I was like, yeah, I didn't. My brain was,
An ending.
yeah,
An ending.
yeah. I didn't. I still don't really know if I like it or not.
So I loved it, but I hated it at the same time.
Exactly. That's yeah. Like,
It should have been post credits.
that would have been interesting. I think that would have made more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess they only wanted to have that right before the credits because the second movie's coming out fast. It's coming out in January. That's not fast enough, but still it's fast,
I
compared
think they
to
shot them fairly close together, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And then I guess from what I understand, because they want to make a third film, but I guess they're waiting to see how successful
I think the next one will be the third film.
Okay.
I think from what I understand is
Okay.
Days was the first.
Okay.
Weeks, they're thrown in the trash, doesn't matter, not in the universe.
Okay.
Years is the second, and then whatever they're making next is the third in the actual trilogy.
Yeah.
That's what I heard during production and stuff.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I guess we'll see in January. It's only June right now, right? Well, June as of this filming. So July, August, September, October, November, December, January, so roughly 6-7 months away. We'll find out. But until then, I don't really know how to feel about the ending, other than basically what you said. I love it and hate it.
We'll see. From the ending, I don't know if they're just going to go for a completely different style, like heavy, wild action goofiness.
Yeah.
That might be fun.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Because this movie was completely serious throughout until that last scene, and then maybe they want to switch the genre up, do something little wacky, little goofy. But
I'm really, really speculating. I don't know, because this movie was already so bizarre and so unorthodox already that what could they do in the second film that would be crazier? Okay, what if they made it into a musical?
I was gonna say, Alex Garland did direct that Men movie. Maybe you could go with something a little bizarre like that.
That's true. That's true. That movie was a little too bizarre for me, but still, maybe it could go. It could go in that direction. I mean, I will give that movie another shot at some point. I think I just was not feeling it the first time, so I got pissed off just seeing that same idiot's face again and again. Like every scene, I was so tired of seeing that guy's face. And then when there's that disgusting scene where that kid gives birth to the fully grown man. And as soon as that happened, I wanted to leave the theater. I was like, fuck this movie. Did you see that movie, by the way, Nick? Oh God, did I just spoil it? Oh, spoiler alert!
I did not see it. Yeah.
Oh God, now you probably don't want to.
I'll forget.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. Check it out. I want to hear your thoughts. Anyway, all right. So, I guess in conclusion, as far as 28 years later, as much as this movie pissed me off, I love the shit out of it. I love the shit out of it because, even though I wouldn't say it's as scary necessarily as the first two, maybe. I mean, this did have some scary moments. It just didn't have as many scary parts. I would say
just dark.
Yeah, exactly. It was more tense. It was mostly the chase scenes that got me. But yeah, even though like the film I wouldn't say is like necessarily like a quote unquote scary type of horror movie. Um it was, unique, it was challenging, it was emotional, it was complicated, it did take a lot of chances, and it's just so different from everything coming out, and it's just doing its own thing. And I mean, I would rather see more of this kind of stuff. So like I don't hesitate to say that I loved it and that it's my favorite of the three. And I would give it a higher than a 4. I'd give it a 4.5. So
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. Like I it's definitely something more than the other two. It's a little more, it takes its chances, like, because you're not gonna go in, like, you're thinking, oh, this is gonna be a typical horror movie, zombie movie. It's not. It's not. It is not that at all.
no.
It is not a zombie, like, and it's not, it is a zombie movie. It's not your typical zombie movie, but like,
Right.
but what it does is something different, something unique, something interesting to watch.
Yeah.
And like, fuck I'm surprised by, like, I can't say enough that Alfie, whatever his name, the kid
Alfie
actor,
Williams.
Alfie Williams, he's great. Like, I was skeptical. I was like, oh, this is a kid movie, like, not a
Yeah.
children's movie, but a movie with the main character as a kid. I was like, oh no, we'll see. But like, he pulls it off. He's a great actor,
Mm-hmm.
and like, then just everything throughout, it's like, touches on difficult subjects of like life and death, and like I said in my letterbox review, with like, of course, the most weirdest, just out there outlandish thing is like a zombie giving birth to a normal uninfected baby.
Yeah.
It kind of points to like, I wrote it in my letterbox review, is like, life finds, like, the Jurassic Park, life
Yes.
finds a way. And
Yes.
it's like there's just so much uh theming that they're like, especially with the doctor, it's like death is always present, kind of
Mm.
thing. Like, everyone dies, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Cancer happens, like, no matter what, people are gonna die. You can't do
Mm.
anything about it, but still there's this life pops out from the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
And it just says a lot more than like the typical horror zombie genre.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
I agree.
and I just find it just implicitly, like, interesting. Like,
Yeah.
they said a lot in just like this weird ass zombie movie. And I think it was just a lot, well, more like a lot just better done, because like, you can tell, like, Days was like their first foray into making
Yeah.
movies, more or less, and like, it was great for a first attempt. And
Yeah.
then, Garland and Boyle have made great movies throughout.
Yeah.
They've honed their craft, and this kind of shows that, yes, they've evolved. They know what they're doing now.
Yeah.
So like, I think it's great. I give it 4 stars.
Yeah. I actually do like a lot of Danny Boyle's films. But yeah, 28 Days Later was definitely his first like horror film for sure. Yeah. Like it was Alex Garland's first horror film too. Alex Garland, I think by that point, was famous because he wrote that novel The Beach, which Danny Boyle made the film adaptation of. But this honestly doesn't feel like it was written by Alex Garland. It feels, when you mention it being thematically rich, you say a mouthful, because this feels more like something that this is all theme. This feels like something that like Hideo Kojima would write.
Right.
The Metal Gear Solid. which I think maybe I'm only thinking that because I've been playing through Metal Gear Solid.
And there's just wacky shit too.
Yeah.
That is like a zombie giving birth. Like, that's a total Hideo Kojima thing to.
Yeah.
Like, just throwing crazy wild shit and like
Well, it's just such a stupid, fucking crazy, absurd, ridiculous idea, but somehow
it works.
Somehow it
Like,
works,
goddamn.
and I'm not sure how. In the deranged kind of vibe of this movie, somehow I can reconcile it with myself. I don't know why. I don't get how I am so unforgiving of the second movie's stupidity, but this movie, I think it's just because the themes here mean a lot more, and they just make more sense here, you know. But that's just my sort of, because obviously the second film has more to do with just the fact that you just don't want the characters to keep making stupid decisions. So, but anyway, what about you, Zach? What are your thoughts?
I loved it. It was a little better than I was expecting. 4 stars for me.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say overall, like, do you like the 28 Days Later more, or this more? I know it's like a little tricky because
Before we started talking, I said days, but I think I might like the years a little better.
yeah.
Thinking on it a little more. I'd say it might be a 4.5 if I decide the ending is fits.
Yeah, that you see, that's exactly the frustrating thing about like 1 part, 2 part, 3 part, 4 part movies and stuff like that. It's the same frustrating thing I had with the Dune movies and all this stuff. Is that like when you have a movie that's like nothing but setup, it basically means that the quality of it kind of hinges on the second movie being good.
Yeah.
So, and obviously in the case of like Dune Part 2, it ended up working out really, really well. Whereas in the case of The Last Jedi, it did not work out so well, obviously.
Little worried about the next 28 years.
I'm extremely nervous about it, but I'm going to give this 4.5 stars anyway, just because I admire the balls to have Aphex Twin, Oliver Tree, Jimmy Savile, Teletubbies.
Just not sure of the director, though.
Oh, isn't it by the director of Candyland, or not Candyland, Candyman remake?
Man. Nia DaCosta, yeah.
Okay.
And The Marvels.
Oh, is it? It's not.
Okay. Well, you know, okay. Well, I will admit I did not care for the Candyland remake. I will admit that. Yes. And the Marvels, I wanted to like, and this is going to sound stupid, but I actually couldn't tell what was going on in it. Because I watched it. I think the lighting, I don't know if there was something about the lighting in that movie that like, I must have watched it on the wrong kind of TV or something, because like the contrast, like I had to like do this while I was watching, and even then I couldn't really quite make out.
Yeah.
But I think there was another movie that she did though that I liked though. I think it was Fast Color is what it's called. You know what? Let me just double check, because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that that's what it was called.
Little Woods.
Yeah. Okay, maybe. I must be thinking of a different filmmaker.
So this next one isn't by.
Yeah, I guess I didn't. Yeah, that's not the one I'm thinking of. Never mind. I take it back. I don't know who Nia DaCosta is. I haven't liked either of her movies though, so fuck her. She's gonna ruin the second one.
It is still written by Garland, but
yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be good. I'm ready, and I think Alex Garland can. He's actually he's good at collaborating with people. I still liked his. I liked Dread, and Never Let Me Go is a great movie. He's a good screenwriter. I trust him. So, but what were you about to say, Nick? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting.
Oh no, I was just like I wasn't aware that it wasn't going to be directed by them. Like Boyle
yeah, I mean, at least it's going to be written by Alex Garland. So I think Danny Boyle, he's probably got some other project he's got to work on. Maybe he's got to make a third Trainspotting movie. Who knows? But regardless, I'm not going to worry about it. But yeah. Oh, and on a final note, I think the one last thing this movie So the whole idea of like taking care of kids who don't know what the world was like sort of before the infection, that I don't know, kind of reminds me of sort of conflicts that I've had sort of in my own line of work a little bit with myself regarding what I do, because I teach preschool, and right now, my students are at the age where they weren't alive before the pandemic of 2020, and as we all know, the world has been completely different since then. And I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I'm like, I mean, I feel pretty confident that I'm, doing the right thing and teaching them the right thing. But the idea of them living in a new world, though, is something that's kind of always on my mind. And so I think that's one of the things that really especially helped me feel like emotionally grounded in this world's universe. Is that whole the way they establish that theme, because like whatever they do in the sequel, which I'm guessing it'll probably have to do with some creepy cult or some weird shit. Maybe there'll be some dance scenes or something.
My assumption is it's going to be a little wackier.
Yeah, it will.
I think they introduced those fucking ninjas.
Yeah,
just to say, hey, it might be a
yeah.
little more fun than what you just saw.
It might be more fun, or it might be more depraved. I really don't know. I'm invested in this journey, though. I do
I
want to
hope
see
it's
what
just
happens.
a Power Rangers movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Ivan Ooze. There you go. Have him be the real carrier. Can you believe this whole infection started over just like some monkeys in a lab? I mean, isn't that depressing to think about? God.
Yeah. Fuck.
All right. Well, I guess unless you guys have any more final thoughts, I think we've said about all we need to say about the 28 trilogy.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, if you guys want, if anyone out there, if you folks haven't seen these zombie movies and you want to see some good zombie action and some crazy shit, along with some very strange emotional themes about family and traditions and stuff, yeah, definitely check this movie. Check out all of these movies. Maybe you could skip the second one if you don't have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I guess that concludes our episode then, if you guys don't have anything else to say. So I know we mentioned earlier the possibility of maybe doing a David Lynch episode next. Maybe I don't know. Should we say yes to that? Maybe.
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
All right. We should watch two David Lynch movies. We should watch Wild at Heart, the Nicolas Cage one.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
definitely Cage. Get it up. Cage, get it up.
Yeah, let's do a Nicolas Cage movie. And then I don't know what's one that I haven't watched that I don't like. Let's watch Lost Highway, because I haven't watched that for a long time and I remember not liking it. So let's do Lost Highway.
All right.
Are you guys up for doing a David Lynch double feature since he passed away?
Yeah. R.I.P. to the great.
Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah. All right. Wild at Heart and Lost Highway. Let's make a plan to watch them and talk about them.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Until then, hope you folks enjoyed our discussion and have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good one.
See ya.